he was faking the accent for 9 months, and then eventually he gets into a relationship with a woman, and he's faking it while in the relationship with the woman. And that's where it's just like, what? Like, how deep in are you, man?
Well,
but it made for a good story, and that's why the clip did well.
Hell yeah. And he dated a lady while he lived in Thailand speaking an Australian accent.
Yeah. And she was German, I think, is what he was saying.
I love that. We met Germans in Japan, and it was very entertaining because, all right, that was the only work email I just sent. It was entertaining because the lady was Japanese, but born and raised in Germany, so just ethnic Japanese. And everyone, so in Japan, they shame you for, like, tourists are allowed to do whatever they want. And I was hanging out with Germans, and Germans on vacation drink all day. So they had, like, a milk thing full of some Japanese liquor. That's just how it came, but it looks like a carton of milk. Anyway, so they were drinking all day on, like, the train just because they're like, they want to rescue. They like tourists. But the Japanese people were shaming the German lady for hanging out with the tourists because they thought she was Japanese. They didn't realize she was German. So they'd all go rub their fingers, or it's the best way to describe it.
What does that mean? Like, don't hang out with them? Like, that's a bad person to hang
Just
out
means
with?
shame.
Oh,
it literally just means shame, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, like you're bringing shame to your, you know, in that context, it would be like you're bringing shame to your family. Which, so that's one of the things I like to talk about that we were talking about the other day. I kind of was thinking about.
If you want to move it and lean back, you can. You don't have to
be up on it.
Yeah. Just move it, adjust it, lean back, get comfortable.
Sounds good. So the conservative people in this country want to tell you the reason our birth rate is plummeting, which did you know it is?
Yeah.
1.6. So it's like we'll go down a third, maybe. I'm not good at math, but like a third every generation, which doesn't sound like a bad thing because everyone thinks the Earth's overpopulated unless you drive around like Wyoming and the Dakotas, which are just completely empty.
Right.
But the conservatives think they're like, oh, it's because of the TikTok and porn and
no, I don't think that's the case. I think it's the same thing that's going on in Germany and Japan. It's like we're finally seeing that in our culture.
Well, Japan's worse.
Well, Japan's much worse
because
they're
very
more
conservative. That's what I was trying to point out. Is I'm like, it isn't a social, they're not. It isn't a lack of family values being passed down or something, because that's very strong over there. Like, they're very proud of being Japanese, which the funny thing in America is like the most American thing you can do is be super anti-America. Like, that's kind of our vibe.
At least on the left, but I think on the right, it's the opposite. The most American thing you can do is be extremely American.
No one's extremely American, and like the best you'll get is somebody who barely apologizes for it, which, that's just our culture. But nobody will go around telling you, some people, I guess, some of the like barbecue dads.
Yeah, like that's kind of what I'm
the best
thinking.
ever.
Yeah, you'll get guys like that who do that.
Not to the same degree of Japan.
I could see that, but I mean, I know a couple guys who are still very like America's number one, and I mean, I got a little bit of that. I mean, like I'm a patriot, but I'm not like gung ho like we're the greatest of all time. But we're pretty good. I would say
we run the world right now.
We run the world.
Yeah,
we're on top.
Yeah.
I saw this video the other day about Russians, and they were interviewing Russian people, and they were like, "Who's the strongest country on the planet right now?" And they're like top three, and they would say Russia, China, and then maybe the United States. Is number three. Isn't that crazy? And the comments were all like, the Russian propaganda machine is so strong that people in Russia still sort of believe that they're number one.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Well, and so what makes them really dangerous right now is that, using the Ukrainians as a proxy, basically they have the only war-hardened soldiers right now. So their whole military is used to fighting now, which isn't good, because that's there isn't much bigger difference in the world than like somebody who's actually done something and somebody who's spent a lot of time preparing to do something. You know what I mean?
You saying that they're becoming battle-hardened and that's dangerous?
If there's a lot of them left, which I don't think there is, and I think they've depleted a lot of their resources. But one of the things they have going for them...
But they're making veterans, yeah.
Yes. Same with... Well, I mean, Ukraine was... I honestly, from what I've heard, they've just decimated their whole population, which, you know, could be argued we just did that and they were kind of along for the ride. But
Right.
yeah, because we overthrew, what was it, Yanukovych in 2014, and that was because the other leader wanted to play ball with the Russians. Yeah.
And then that fell apart. Yeah.
Exactly. So, you know, I don't even completely know what they wanted to get out of it. Maybe the mineral rights or something.
Of Ukraine, what the Russians wanted out of Ukraine?
No, what we wanted. I know what they wanted. They don't want Ukraine. They don't want NATO on their doorstep, which
I think we just want to be on their doorstep. I think we're just slowly encroaching. All NATO is, in my mind, is just the U.S. form of expansion without like taking a country. It's like we just incorporate them into NATO.
No, they're our property. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. And by just slowly growing and growing, all Russia, they don't see NATO getting bigger. They see the United States.
They're correct.
Getting closer. And they are correct. And I saw this really good post from Putin, not post from Putin, but it was a thing that Putin said, like, if Russia wanted to join NATO, what would that look like?
They asked during Bill Clinton.
Right. And they said, and then he's like, they would never let us in because NATO was specifically designed against Russia. Like it is designed to stop us. So if we join you, it dissolves. There's no point for it anymore. It's a entity that exists so that we have to combat it. It's designed against us. And I thought that was a good point. I was like, dang, that is kind of true. Yeah.
And it's the whole reason they do it.
Yeah.
Because the best example I've heard is the end of the Soviet Union. Everyone was just in it. Everyone that was still in the secret police of like the Russian government. It started out they were all hardcore communist revolutionaries, and then as the years go on, it's just a bureaucracy and people that wanted jobs. So like they didn't really care that much when it fell because Americanism, you know, basically like blue jeans and rock and roll supposedly became really popular.
We just saw it as like another market to sell shit in.
That and they wanted to topple because it used to be would it be a bipolar world? I know they think it's unipolar now. If it's two,
what does that mean?
So like two bipolar, not in the mental sense, like
right.
Unipolar's one. What would two polar be? So it used to be the USSR and us.
Oh, you mean like power wise?
Before 1990.
I got you. So, but then after they fell, there was a book about this. I had to read it for college, political science. That's how I graduated.
You did political science.
I was a political scientist. And there was a book about this, like how the one guy made an argument that once Russia fell, like the Soviet Union fell, that the United States was the only superpower and that was it.
Kind of, yeah.
But then now that doesn't seem like the case anymore. Now it feels like China's right fucking there.
I don't know what to hear or believe. So they're supposedly falling apart because
China or Russia?
China, Russia already isn't. Russia, like 70% of Russia doesn't have indoor plumbing. Like they're
right.
Yeah, they have a lot of nukes. Their people are very strong. But yeah, the idea that they're like, maybe they're trying to expand. I think, like you said, they just don't want NATO on there to be any closer, which was what we were doing.
Is understandable.
Of course.
Yeah.
And like you said, so if we have a deep state that was built to fight the Russians, it doesn't stop fighting the Russians just because the threat's gone. Like you already have this whole machine built and put into motion. It's like how some people say a lot of the stuff that civil rights organizations used to be. They were all built up to legalize gay marriage, and then they just didn't know what to do with themselves after that. What else? You have to find new things. You
have to find a new ground.
Yeah,
that's kind of my biggest critique with like the Democrats now. Is that I feel like they got everything they wanted over the last 20 years, and then now they don't really have anything new. It's just sort of like they're holding ground.
They got a lot of what they wanted.
They got gay marriage, they got Obamacare, they wanted
universal health care, and Obamacare is like
it's the shittiest form of it.
It's such a my insurance goes up 30% every year, and I have an $8,000 deductible. Because I pay my own. You're self-employed? You got to pay your own.
I do, yeah.
So you pay for mine's still Colorado. It might be better now that I'm here. I'm not sure.
Right.
and I'm not even sure I live here, but we'll see. I'm in an Airbnb still.
That's right. Because you were thinking about going back because you don't want to go through the summers, right?
No, I might go to New York City. So I rented.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I rented the top half for till the end of September, and then I have because the top's an Airbnb sometimes. One of the maids, and their friend live in the basement. And I didn't know how long they'd be there. I thought they were squatting at first. That's why I thought I was going back, because I was like, oh, I'm going to have to go camp in my yard and figure out how to evict people, because like they refuse to sign the lease or send rent until.
But now you're going to New York, so
I don't know.
Oh, you don't know?
I just do whatever all the time. I really do.
When'd you start doing that?
I mean, when I became fully freelance or self-employed or whatever, it would have been 2018. But even before that, I just wandered around. Like, I used to have companies pay me to travel places for trade shows. Like I was telling you, so if you go to the right trade show, which is why I'm so worried about, I'm not that worried because I don't really care. I just hate seeing people suffer. And if we put, 150% tariff on China, everything comes from China. Everything.
Right.
So I used to go to these trade shows. I would work for, like I said, Westinghouse. So Westinghouse is a licensing company owned by, I think, CBS. The Warner Group, maybe, who I think owns CBS. So Ted Turner, maybe?
I don't know. We can look it up.
Something like that. So, but Westinghouse is just a brand name. And the generators were called Westinghouse, but they were all made in the same two factories in China make all the generators, except for Honda. Honda's Japanese, and that's why they cost more than twice as much, but they're so much better that people buy them anyway. So anyway, you would go to these trade shows, or I would, and mostly I just wanted to travel to do stand-up, but you would see all the generators looked exactly the same, and the only differences were what color they were, some design elements, the stickers, the warranties, because that's all the American people do.
Right.
The warranty, the customer service, the website, the marketing.
But
it's like
the
we'd
actual
take pictures.
thing is like going to be the same.
All China.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I was going to start selling, they call them sweat tents. So like saunas, you don't need it here. They'd be silly here, but.
My neighbor has one.
Oh, really? Here?
Yeah, in the garage. Yeah.
Why?
Well, it's like a steam sauna. I feel like that's.
Yeah, it's a steam sauna here. Like
I don't know. You seem to be very, what do you call it? Impacted by our weather. I feel like it's not that steamy out.
It's horrible.
Really?
Yes.
Well, you came from Colorado. I mean,
it's
that's
the best in the world. And my family, I think my lineage is from, we have to be mountain people, because just a lot of things that screw with people up there don't bother me at all. I love that it gets cold at night. I love that there's no humidity. You can go. I would go jogging and I wouldn't even take a shower sometimes, because you don't even think to, because you're not
you're not sweating.
Even when I lived in Vegas, you'd barely be sweating compared to here.
Well, it's because it's just the desert. It's dry as hell. Yeah,
Colorado's a desert.
Colorado. Yeah, I guess you could say that.
No, it literally is. They have cacti and
yeah. But I think the thing that
they have snow melt that grows trees, and that's why everyone gets confused.
Yeah,
because the snow melts way up in the mountains,
which makes the trees up there
everywhere. They ship it everywhere. Like Denver shouldn't be. There shouldn't be all the green stuff living in Denver, but they pump the water over there
from the mountains.
Yeah, same. California does it. California is not a desert. You still grow like strawberries and almonds and stuff but it's, they have the same thing where it's managing snow melt, and they'll have heavy rain periods and they'll have drought periods. Whereas like if you look at the eastern half of the country and Texas and Florida, like most of the South till you go over to the Sun Belt, like most people live on do you know everybody lives on the east side of the country?
Yeah, most people, I would say.
Almost all of them, yeah. So it's
right.
From...
Except for California.
California, Texas, Arizona. But like everywhere north of that is empty.
It's
so like,
empty,
yeah.
Yeah. I've seen, like, you see those light charts of like light pollution.
There you go. Yeah.
That's kind of like a good way of figuring it out.
It's a great way.
Yeah.
And then the same thing could be said, which this is what interests me about life in general anymore, is I start seeing things like that's also where the people live is also where, bugs and plants, like everything else lives. In the same way that if you go out east, the density of the plants and trees and everything increases, so does people. And they're like, we have all these human reasons we could use to describe that, but I just don't know if it's that complicated.
But you hear the opposite all the time of people being like, oh, human beings are tearing everything down. So that seems counterintuitive to that, though, doesn't it?
Counterintuitive to what?
Like you're saying, like where people are living, that's where everything else is thriving.
I think they do that because, yeah. But you're saying people tear down things? I mean, barely. Like, if you look... So my family's from, Dearborn, so that's the southwest corner of Detroit. Like, if it were any closer, it would be Detroit, but it's the southwest corner of Detroit. It's now the highest concentration of Pakistani people outside of Pakistan in the world, but...
yeah, they have a lot of food there for... I think it was Lebanese food when I was in Detroit or something.
The Lebanese own Columbus, which I love the family that owns Columbus. And, not all of it. They just own a bunch of Columbus. Like, Lebanese families do real well. I don't know if it's the people with money from Lebanon move here or what, but all the ones I've met own a couple businesses and are doing really well. But, so if you look at Detroit, where everyone left because the union jobs dried up.
Right.
The trees are eating the houses. So it takes about, I would say, between people living somewhere and where you get to about, New York City would get to the I Am Legend. Did you see I Am Legend?
Yeah.
So when it's 40% of the way to being back to nature, and then by, I'd say, like 140 years, you wouldn't see anything. Like, where I'm from, you'll just find broken down cars that people just put out in their yard several decades ago, and
just never moved it.
Yeah, and they'll almost be gone.
Oh,
nature eats that stuff real quick.
Yeah,
it's very,
or at least covered in like vines and
no,
shit.
Eats it.
like the metal.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can pull it up.
Well, so look up Detroit houses, trees or something. You'll see that it's covering it, but it won't be too long before it's gone. Like, I remember we used to play in these farmhouses we'd find out in the middle of nowhere that the wood was real soft and wet. Yeah, see that, but then they start growing up through the middle too, and that's when it's really over. Once a tree starts growing up through the middle, you're like, it's going to shake it off like fleas. Yeah. But yeah, that's almost gone. I mean, and that's actually, that would be a nice house. Like, if you're trying to buy a house in Detroit, no, I'm not joking. That's probably $7,000 for that house.
Here's a good one.
Did you know about that? You're in that industry. 15,000 is high.
Yeah, and I know in Detroit it's pretty wild. Like, here's a good example.
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
This is a good example. It just got consumed pretty much.
Yeah. So people think that, which it is gross. Like, if you go somewhere like, a major city in China, or LA forever had the fog.
Look at that one.
Yeah, no, that's what I expect to see.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
LA with the fog?
Earth's a lot tougher than people think it is, and then.
But this looks like it happened. Maybe, but when did they all leave? Like 60s, 50s? When did
late 60s? Yeah,
late 60s?
Early, maybe even early.
Yeah. So this takes about 50 years for that to happen, I guess. Then, huh?
Yeah, and it's almost done. That's why I said over 100, and you don't see anything.
Right. Yeah.
Like the bricks will stay. Like, I think. Oh, and that gets to my. I got to slow down and speak about things people might be able to understand, but
you're fine.
Like, I think we get to a certain level of technological advancement, and then I think humans all decide that they don't have purpose and that they want to die, and that it starts over, essentially. Like, we go through a dark age once the population collapses.
So you think we're headed there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So how does that look? And you're like, how does that break down?
Well, like Korea, that's another great example, because, and they're even funny. If you don't understand what the American empire is, look at South Korea versus North Korea. And you can look at the light pollution map. Now, North Korea.
Yeah, I've seen those.
It's a very badly run country. And, if somebody's into communism, they'll just tell you like, oh, yeah, well, the CIA set it up to where all these countries are destined to fail or whatever, which I don't think is really true. But South America is just the American-occupied Korea, which that's
Right.
how they view it in the North. The South would never say that, neither would we.
Right.
And what's their prime minister, Moon or
But
whatever?
we have military presence there, which kind of makes it true.
Well, and they have like baseball games where they eat chicken and drink. Instead of the kiss cam, they have the where you chug the giant beer, and they're like 40-ounce beers. It's very American and like the like confusing, but you could taste it if you were there. You'd be like,
You'd be like,
look
this
at
is
this,
American as hell.
Karaoke stuff like that. You're like, what is going on here? But yeah, their birth rate's 0.6. So for every 2 people that live there, a little more than half a baby is born. So do you see how quickly that's going to collapse?
Right. So, but how does that look in the future? Is this bad, or is this like?
Depends on. I don't care about becoming multiplanetary. I understand why that's a goal, but
For Elon.
yeah, but do humans seem happy? Like nothing, like if you ever see like Skid Row, that hasn't ever happened in human history to that degree. Like that level of concentrated human suffering. Maybe the concentration camps, but the suicide rates were lower. Now maybe it was harder, but yeah. And then there was just another school shooting yesterday. What is it like? It's like almost every day. Yeah, people don't seem happy at all.
So you think a lower population is better?
I didn't say it was better. I'm saying that's where we're headed.
Right.
And better might be, like I told you the other day when we were at Creek in the Cave. So if you're to look up anything, the most interesting thing, it's kind of my religion, is the mouse utopia experiment from the 60s. So they put all these mice into a utopia that they made for them. But once the population density hit a certain threshold, to where they started getting overloaded with pheromones is how they described it. But they quit breeding. A lot of the men became very aggressive and like prison gay, so like dominance. Yeah. And then a lot of the mice, they call them the beautiful ones, which
Oh my god.
I see every time I go to the gym, clear as day. You couldn't talk me out of it.
Oh, because they're the most attractive females.
No, men. They spend all day in front of the mirror preening themselves. Women do that anyway.
Really?
Yeah.
So there were men that were like flexing.
The mice
But
would
these are mice.
preen themselves in front of reflective things all day. Not have sex.
But what about the women? What was their views there?
They were owned by the... So it's what you see in a lot of older cultures, which is the top men have like three women or whatever. Those are the big ones that controlled territory. So they noticed this happened once the territory was defined. And they just started behaving like people do in cities, which, random acts of violence. They don't breed near as much, which that's what you can't look at. The only place that has a positive population growth is Africa. And it's because children are viewed as partially as retirement and partially as
It's
extra
the old
labor.
school
Yeah.
way of like viewing children as a contribution to your actual wealth and growth. Right.
Yep.
But that's not the case in the first world anymore.
Not at all.
Right. Now it's an actual, like it's in your way.
Yeah, and it's not that much fun.
Yeah.
You almost need to have to do it. Because I'll be 35, it won't be that long, and I have never had any interest. And I've actually went way out of my way not to have kids. Which is very strange. A lot of people think that
But you
Darwin
don't think
thing is
you're
true.
behaving strangely. You think that's just the right way to behave.
Well,
Do you have like a juxtaposition with your instincts of nature where you're like, oh, I should be having, like, does that ever happen? Probably not. Yeah, it's just sort of like I'm just living and this is the way I want to live.
Well, yeah, and I have goals, and what's funny is I was really depressed for a while when I first moved here. But it's funny, I was thinking about it the other day, and I was like, I have all of the crazy goals that I had when I was like 23.
Right.
Other than comedy hasn't went near as well as I hoped it would, but everything else, like, yeah, I work online, and I have a house out in Colorado and a decent car, stuff like that. And I'm kind of like location independent. I don't have a boss. Like I said, I kind of just do whatever I want all the time. But you're still bored and not happy because, like, have you ever heard the worst thing you could do to a man is give him everything he ever wanted?
Yeah.
I wonder if that's where society kind of is. 'Cause
We just have too much.
I don't know.
Not even too much, but like we don't really have.
If growth was the goal,
Right.
but so okay. So here's what happens in my theory and what they said about the Dark Ages, because like they had plumbing in Rome. Did you know that?
Right.
Right. So and they
Covered
think
in lead.
well, and they had air conditioning, so they would dig tunnels under the
Yeah, so it would blow. They'd make like wind tunnels. Yeah.
with cold water. Yeah, exactly. Which is how I used to fix air conditioners. Like it's the exact same principle. We just came up with a much fancier one. But so imagine if let's say 0.6 becomes the birth rate, which everyone's headed down. There isn't a country that I saw on the map that's above 2. So you need 2 0
To grow.
No, 2 zeros to stay exactly the same. 2 for every 2 people.
Oh, because there's 2 people making 2.
Yeah, that's to stay the same.
Got it.
Nowhere is even there except for one country in South America. I don't know which one.
Well, this is why
And a couple
immigration is
Muslims
important.
come.
This is kind of what we've been doing.
Well, that's what they're doing to import slaves.
Well, we're doing it because I think the government is very aware that people are not making enough kids, and they're like, well, we need to have people coming into the country at a steady rate.
That's no. That's a whole other discussion. They're importing slaves for corporations. Like,
What do you mean? Explain that.
so I live in I live in studio homes. So the apartments are all studios. It's like a hotel room. Probably about 2/3 the size of this room is the apartment. And it has a cooktop, a sink, a bed, a TV, a bathroom, and like a standing closet thing. But some of the families appear to have immigrated here recently, and 8 of them live in that unit.
8 people in that unit.
Yeah.
Oh,
so like
shit.
my friend, I don't know if you met, there's a comic, his name's Aaron. He lived in
What's his last name?
I don't know. I would have to look. But blonde dude, mustache, real cool, friendly. Looks like a surfer. I'll point him out at Kill Tony. I actually got to go to that this week. I didn't go this week. Sorry, which specific thing was I on?
We were talking about.
How did Aaron come up? Oh, he used to. Okay, the slaves. So he he ran a landscape. He's from Detroit area. He ran a landscaping company in Michigan, and it was him and his friend, and they made good money mowing lawns and whatnot. He can't even get hired to mow lawns here because he needs about 20 an hour to be have your own apartment,
right,
make your own money, whatever, car note, all that stuff. They can't hire mowers for that much because so many people are willing to do it for $7 an hour, and they'll just work 2 or 3 jobs and live in an apartment with 7 other people.
Right.
And the open borders thing, like if you ever listen to old Bernie Sanders, he was very anti-immigration because he was like, it's a Koch brothers conspiracy, which it was. It was to...
So you're saying we're just trying to get as many people over here to do cheap labor so that we, again...
Yeah, partially because we don't... Partially because, a lot of Americans really just don't want to work, which is fine. They're making it fine by importing people who are willing to work. So the minimum wage is what makes it to where having illegal workers makes more sense. But it doesn't really matter. They're doing it in every country that... And then, that's why China's a superpower, is they're like, hey, we'll have the best price if all of our people are slaves. And they do,
Yeah, but it's actually, it was a benefit from where they were. Where they were was fucking nothing.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you're going to go from nothing
after
to...
when? Nothing after the Great Leap Forward, or...
Well, the Great Leap Forward was we're dying, starving, and some of us are doing okay.
They had 100 million more people before it.
Well, I think what, 100 million people died or some shit.
Exactly. Because they went to war with the birds.
Right.
And yeah.
But that that Great Leap Forward.
It was basically just Mao wanted it. They weren't all going to starve to death if they didn't.
But Stalin did the same thing.
Yeah.
And he showed that it could work.
What work?
It sounds bad, but he basically said, we're going to throw millions of lives to make this a modern country. We're going to literally kill millions of people to turn this from an agrarian economy to a actual modern day industrial economy, which was the Soviet Union. And he was like, I'm going to kill millions of people to accomplish this. And it worked. And then Mao Zedong just went pro and was like, I'm going to do the same thing Russia did. I'm going to throw millions of lives to make this a modern country.
They never admitted that. And the plan wasn't millions of people dying. Because when they went to war, it was the pests they blamed. It was always about blaming somebody for where their food was going. Like in Poland, it was it the kulaks or whatever? It meant landowners, which they're doing in South Africa right now. Mm-hmm. And Mao went to war with the pests. So birds that were eating their crops, bugs that were eating their crops. And then it turns out if you exterminate entire species of bug, that it throws off like 1,000 other. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had this wasn't long after they figured out, germ theory. So, like, the idea that no one back then would even imagine that
the whole ecosystem would go into whack because you were fucking slaughtering an entire species.
Yeah. It was just, these are causing us problems. We're going to kill all of them. And then, it resulted in lots of people starving to death. And they still do it now. They're still, the reason their population's collapsing is they killed all of their all of the female children, which
right.
The only way that would make any sense is if they wanted to eventually go to war.
They must be recovering that.
Not really.
Really?
They have a mushroom. Yeah, so like the reason everyone's willing to work, one, they have to, but in China you retire, I think, at either 60 or 65, and it's supposed to just be full retirement. You don't pay for anything anymore. And pretty soon they'll have like 2 or 3 old people for every young person. So it'll be like, every worker has to support 4 people. We're not even close to there yet. We're going to have a lot much bigger old problem. Not even close to what we're going to have.
But once all the boomers get there is kind of the spike.
It'll be bad.
Yeah,
They're the ones that voted in all these. And everyone's like, oh, the rest of the world adopted them. Yeah, because most of the world's the American empire, and it seemed like it works, which it does work until it doesn't. Like, I got brought up thinking I'd never get Social Security. Because, it's the literal definition of a Ponzi scheme. But, governments can do magical things sometimes where it's just like, this is what we're going to do. Maybe they'll keep it going. I don't know. They already spent all of the principal. Do you understand the difference between like a Ponzi scheme and an investment?
No, explain it.
Okay, so Ponzi was a guy, Italian gentleman, I believe, and he would give you, it was like 7 or 8% guaranteed interest on your money. So he would keep sending you these checks for 7 or 8% interest, which is a lot because, bonds, even unless inflation's really bad, bonds aren't going to pay, maybe 4%. So he's giving them what was considered like a revolutionary. They're like, this guy's an amazing investor. He keeps giving us 7% in turns. But what he did is he just kept the level of people coming in higher than the amount he needed to pay out. And he was just...
Oh, so anytime he got a new person to invest, he would use that money.
He would send their money to the old
investors.
Person. A pyramid scheme is another way to put it.
Right.
Yeah, so there's nothing in...
The problem is that you reach a maximum, you meet your market cap where like you can't get anybody else because it like compounds. You have to keep finding new people to invest, and eventually you're going to run out.
Well, that's why that's why if the population goes down, Social Security will collapse. Which it isn't, like you said, because of immigrants, but they're not making the immigrants citizens because if they were citizens, they would get Social Security, and that's kind of why like the half measure.
But a lot of them are being naturalized. We naturalize people every year, like hundreds.
How many?
Well, that's a good question, actually.
Yeah, because we just got like 20 million new people over the past 5 years, and that's a low end estimate.
People become naturalized American U.S. citizens?
Oh, and other people. So that's another argument the conservatives will tell you is they're like, oh, it's because of the immigration that people aren't having kids. But
almost 1 million.
Japan has. Do you know how many immigrants Japan has on an average year?
I bet it's very small.
Guess.
Probably like maybe 200. It's super
11.
small. Really?
Yeah. They'll have like 7 or 11. 200's a good guess. 200's like if someone sets you up with, it's going to be really
Yeah.
low.
I can only imagine people that become Japanese would be like South Koreans that are like starting to work in Japan and they just are becoming.
You're not, Koreans don't go to Japan.
Really?
They have, but
I just don't think there's a lot of Americans that are like, I'm going to go live in China and or not China, in Japan and be Japanese and like live there forever.
no, you'll never be Japanese. That's the American, because we live in a country where you're American if you move here, which obviously has been
The government won't let them.
No, socially, you're never Japanese. Socially. Same with like if we went to Denmark. Danes are just not, Danes are like the Asian, or well, all of the Nordic countries are a lot closer to like, because Japan, if you're a third generation Korean that's been living in Japan, you're still not Japanese.
Right.
It's kind of sad. Like, have you heard the American, this is one of the most American phrases I'm aware of, which is AAIP. So Asian American Pacific Islanders or something.
Right.
Which is so ridiculous because it'd be hard to find groups of people that hate each other more than everyone we lump into that category. Like Chinese and Japanese do not get along.
Interesting. So you're saying that the only reason we just view we're just allowing people culturally to become us more liberally than what other cultures are actually doing. Like,
well,
the
and it's been our
Japanese.
superpower because we do get the best from every country. You know, at least we did.
Because we're just like, fuck it, you're American now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which we're a very new country compared to like Japan's thousands and thousands of years old.
So they can't break that mold to be like us where they're like, you can just become Japanese. That won't happen. They're like, you're just not Japanese.
I mean, it's a lot more than it used to be. But yeah, like if you go there, not only is everyone Japanese, well, so I've only been to like Tokyo and some surrounding areas, but not only are they all Japanese, they're all thin, they're all dressed the same. I saw one fat girl the whole time I was there. I was there like 2 weeks. There was one, and she was really fat, and I was like, this must be like a gland thing, because... and there's a lot of them smoke inside.
Oh my
there's
god,
some
that's
weird
pretty
shit.
funny.
Yeah. People drink pretty. They all work 80 hours a week too. If you didn't know that.
Yeah, I heard they have the sleeping on the subway, and they're all like sleeping in there because it's like considered a point of pride to how much you work. I knew this
sad.
Japanese girl, and she was like, "This is why I left, is because there are people there who are like literally competing with. Oh, I stayed at the office 90 hours last week. What did you do?" And like,
To impress the women.
It's like a thing of like, yeah, I do this. That's it is sad. It is sad. I don't know why we don't. I feel like Americans kind of can see that, and we go, "I'm wasting my life." I talk to enough guys who are like, "I'm kind of wasting my life at this job."
So I was a big proponent of that. Like I watched Office Space again the other day, and it's still one of my favorite
Love
movies.
that movie.
It's
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah.
It's why I used to work in construction. Is I come from, a fat family of just they had poor health fairly young due to, and I saw people that worked outside. So when I used to load trucks, I'd be in great shape and I'd be pretty relatively happy, but I didn't realize your body starts wearing out. When you're in your early 20s, it feels like you're like not only is life forever, but like you'll always be,
I'm still thinking of the gland,
invincible.
the gland thing.
Dude, there was one fat girl. Her life had to be miserable.
No, because what's funny is the way you said it because here you see a fat person and you're like, oh, this person probably says it's a gland thing, but in reality, they're eating themselves into an early
Right.
grave. But you actually saw so few that when you looked at her, it wasn't even like you're gross. It was like, oh, she actually has a medical condition.
I saw one.
Yeah. And it's so few that you're like, that's definitely a medical problem.
Not only that,
Yeah.
no one was a little fat.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And you could tell, like, so there'd be people from Africa that work in specific industries and stuff, and they would look like gym fit. Like, they looked like they worked out. Japanese people are like skinny fat generally.
They're just thin.
They just they're just thin. They don't eat a lot. They work all the time.
Right. What do you think that is?
I mean, they're just cultures. So it's why I think everybody's so wrong about, they guess so many reasons of why the birth rates collapsing, which is a really interesting issue.
Well, I think we all. I mean, I think it's
And I
all
think we
pretty
have it
obvious.
backwards.
I think the reason the birth rate's dropping is because like your situation. It's just people going, why would I have a kid and spend money and settle down?
My family is not good. Just, there was a lot of...
Well, not even your family. I'm just saying, like, you as a case study. Even me, I'm 31. I'm not even close to having kids. And
This place would have... You got to be careful, man. A lady sees you got your guitar. This looks like... How many rooms is it?
3.
Yeah,
But, dude, I mean, I don't want
I'm
kids.
just saying. No, you'd just be surprised how quick you'd be like...
Oh, boom, they're here.
I read Regretful Parents because I'm trying to... I never got a vasectomy. Supposedly they're making male birth control that's non-hormonal, and I texted my friend that, and he told me he just joked that it was going to make me gay, which I would fucking love. I would absolutely love. It would be great for my career.
What do you think of the male birth control thing? You think that is a good idea? There's a lot of women I talk to who are like, men should be on birth control too. Why is it only us?
Yeah, they say that, but female birth control might be one of the worst things that ever happened to women, because it's very artificial. It's like I don't like plastic surgery because it's very uncanny valley, and no one's ever happy. Like when I meet somebody who's had plastic surgery, usually they've had, like I met a lady the other day that had 2 boob jobs, 4 nose jobs. My friend just keeps getting shit chopped up. She actually looks better, which I'm shocked because
usually they don't.
Yeah, almost never.
Right. My parents do that a lot.
They do?
Yeah. They get like little tucks and the snips and the face pull.
What?
Yeah, they do that a lot.
What do they do?
My dad worked in tech, and so did my mom. And
see, that used to be money too.
Yeah. So they came from
that way.
They got money, and I mean they look fine. I've never seen one where I'm like, you look fucked up. But
well, they probably get tiny ones.
They get little ones. It's definitely not like a huge remap your whole face.
But my point was, it's never enough.
It's not. It just keeps going on and on.
Yeah.
That's the problem with it.
Yeah. So, like female birth control. Here's where, and I don't mind being a wild conspiracy theorist.
Do it.
I actually enjoy it. But have you ever seen? I think I showed you this at the Creek in the Cave. The hyena dicks. Have you seen the hyena dicks?
No, I don't.
The female hyena dick. It's actually
Should I look it up?
Yeah. It's one of my favorite examples of anything. And I hope somebody could just tear apart all the stuff I'm saying, because it gets exhausting being the only one that thinks this way. Yeah, pseudopenis, exactly. So it's because they're bigger, because the men will eat the children, so the women have to be bigger to protect the children from the male. Yeah, that's essentially an inside-out vagina right there.
Wait, then how do they have sex?
They put it over the male. It goes over the male one.
So they have to pass another dick.
In that.
Oh, they go in.
I'm pretty
the dick.
sure. I'm not even positive. But that's a female hyena, and they still have the baby. They're just bigger than the male. And what's funny is they took on dominance. Like a lot of male traits live inside of how they are physically.
Right.
Like if you look at one of the examples I like to use is
explain. So they have to have a dick for what reason? So they need to fight?
No, it happened because they're bigger than the men, because they evolved to be bigger than the men, because the men will eat the babies.
Oh, so they need to be able to fight off their man.
Well, and no one... Evolution's it's one of my favorite subjects, but it's most confusing because it seems to follow some sort of guidance. Like random mutation doesn't... You just don't see enough all of the variations seem to harmonize with their environment. Like the birds that Darwin originally observed had very specific, like their beaks were made for opening the nuts and fruit or whatever of the place where they lived. And you're like, like there aren't just humans born with, and there are, but you don't see a lot of weird variables to where it doesn't seem like a scatter shot. It almost seems like almost like the same way consciousness acts. It seems like something's guiding evolution to some degree. But anyway, so hyenas.
What do you think? Yeah, go ahead.
It just seems to be this. So it sounds like I'm getting ready to pitch God to everybody, which is not.
No, but it's an interesting topic.
It's not the case. Well, I know, but it sounds like that's what I'm setting up. I'm not pitching God.
But it sounds like you're saying evolution is leading to something.
Well, no, it just seems like it's directed consciously by something. Like some people argue that, because you can see and this is some subject I know very little about, but there will be giant, they think mushrooms in the ground guide where plants grow and things live. Kind of like how I said everybody lives on the east coast of the country.
Right.
If something caused all the trees to live there, it could okay, here's a better example. So do you know why crazy cat ladies are crazy cat ladies? And it happens to guys too. But
I think it was a cat piss. Is
yes.
that the thing? Yeah.
It's a virus that lives in, I think it's a virus that lives in, or a parasite. But that's where it thrives. And for some reason, the person decides that they want to have lots of cats, which is really, really weird because that's like saying,
but
we think we're like supercomputers.
But you think it's kind of like the whole ant getting driven by a mushroom to like climb up the tree and kill itself. Do you think that it's something that was designed by the cat, or maybe it's symbiotic relationship with the fungus in its pee to make the lady get more cats?
It's just incredibly advanced. It's an incredibly advanced program for hacking something incredibly complicated in a way that just doesn't seem like, because a lot of the way people look at it would be monkeys with the typewriter write Shakespeare. And it's just like, I get what you mean. If you put them in a room forever,
it's going to happen.
Yeah, but forever doesn't exist. It's a silly concept.
But it does, though.
Not to me, it doesn't.
Well, what do you mean?
Forever when you say infinity, it isn't. It's in. Now we're gonna go into super nerd stuff, but
get it. Get
Plato's world of forms or whatever. Mm-hmm. Are you familiar? So like, we use that's a chair. I know that's a chair. It fits under what we define chair, but there isn't like in the world of forms, there would be something that is the most chair.
Yeah, I remember this.
Okay. So
there is like a ideal chair that we have in our mind.
Yeah, but it's just a way of referencing something so other humans get it.
Right.
Forever. I get how it's possible. I just don't believe in it. So my point is,
so you say that when
I
you
don't
say
think
forever,
evolution's completely random. That's all I was saying.
Right.
Random doesn't seem to be how it works.
I don't think it's random either. There's definitely but there's a simple concept to it, which is, can this thing continue to reproduce? Is there a niche here for this thing to reproduce?
And how do you get to, we can hack human brains to make them adopt cats?
Well, I mean,
it's very confusing to me.
Niche after niche after niche after niche, you can get into some weird, crazy shit. Like the one, like I said, with the fungus that manipulates ants to crawl up at trees.
Oh, I didn't know that was a specific example. What's that?
So there's an ant in the Amazon, and in the Amazon, it's dark on the forest floor because the trees they soak up all the sunlight on the top, so it's very dark on the bottom. And the fungus knows this, and when it takes over an ant, it doesn't just kill it. It like grows in its brain, and it says, climb up a tree, and it will climb up a tree until it reaches sunlight, and then it kills the ant, and it uses the body of the ant to grow into like a flower of some kind to take sunlight. And it's basically, it's found a niche in mind controlling a fucking ant.
And that's my point, is that's so much more sophisticated than
Then what?
It just sounds like there's something we're missing that guides these things.
I don't think we're really. I mean, what guides is it wants to find a place to thrive, right? It's just found a strange.
I just don't know how it would find that. That's all. Like I think,
like how that started.
Yeah.
Like how did it start taking over ants? Like what was the first ant that got taken over?
That's my point.
Yeah.
That's your question. Well, so the ones that are easier to wrap your head around, for me at least, are things like, have Have you heard the argument against seed oils?
I've heard people, not really, no.
So seed oils are supposed to be bad for you because seeds often produce toxins because seeds don't want to be eaten and digested, whereas fruit contains seeds that the goal is for the animal to eat it and digest
So
it.
that it can be in poop.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So like olive oil is a fruit oil, so that's better for you because you're intended to eat things that aren't seeds. Seeds are just a lot cheaper and easier to refine into oils, and they supposedly cause all these health issues.
Oh, so the argument is you're not supposed to break down the seed. You're supposed to break down the fruit.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
And I think I mentioned this at Creek in the Cave. The only thing I like about Satanists is they say, as above, so below, which I just see everywhere. So
what does that mean?
So if you're not supposed to eat a seed, you're not supposed to eat seed oil because it's still just eating seeds.
Okay, so it applies to everything in that tier of context.
Well, and what I'm talking about is like what we're seeing with a bug that can, or a fungus that can hack a bug brain to make it go up. That's as advanced and complicated to me as somebody hacking a computer and making it do what, like.
I would almost say more so.
Well, more so, sure.
Yeah,
and we're missing whatever that is because we try to. Well, we don't try to. It's just a natural thing that happens is we kind of anthropomorphize everything. So, like, you know why we like puppies and kittens and stuff?
Yeah, because they remind us of babies.
There you go.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And they just started growing, which that makes perfect sense. They just followed along with us because. Have you ever seen that meme where it shows the wolf? And it's like, hey, I should ask those humans if they have any food. And then it goes 4,000 years later, and it's a little chihuahua.
Yeah. I've seen that one.
Yeah, so that kind of just happened to it.
But then, this is the thing that I think it is. That's a good example that you could tell how that started.
Right.
So like the fungus in the brain with the ant, that one is a little harder to see how that would have started for the first time.
Well, and I think weed, for a good example, marijuana is a parasite on humans, which I have ADHD and I used to use it to help me with that, and it seems to help. But I think that
you could say that about corn.
Yeah, that would be a lot easier for me to argue it's evil. Because corn's a seed. That goes right into corn's. You're probably not supposed to eat corn, but
we do it. We use it for everything, and it's benefiting from us because it's staying alive and growing.
Both of them are.
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine, like, if you're aliens watching people, and I know that weed was always, it's been produced in giant quantities forever, but over the explosion, especially like in America over the last like 15 years,
it's been huge.
It's been nothing but like trying to advance the different strains and all the things and it to like a high art form. It kind of looks like if you're an alien, you might think that we work for weed. That would be one of your interpretations.
You made that argument about cats.
Yes.
You said that last. That's what I do remember because I was
That's
thinking about
how
that the
they
other
interact
night.
with us. Yeah.
You were like, if you were an alien, you would probably think that cats run people.
Dogs are our servants, and we're servants of cats. Yeah, just
Right.
from how they behave. Yeah.
But I think that if the one thing that makes humans obviously different is, like you mentioned, that there's a driving force in evolution that seems to be stronger or bigger than us. And I would say that's DNA and how it interacts with genetics and all that. Because genetics seems to be able to be communication between whatever you are and whatever your offspring is. It seems to be some kind of communication between that. And I think the difference that we have from every other animal is that we recognize that there is a communication there and we're actively trying to change it. And that seems to be like where we have the complete leg up. Because there is some kind of, like you said, hacking smarts there, and then we're manipulating that, and I think that kind of puts us at a higher tier, higher echelon than everything else. But
well, in terms of dominance and stuff, yeah. But you don't see other animals killing themselves.
Well, I think a lot of
and I forgot to finish my point about the hyennas. Then I'll let you talk because I do tend to ramble.
Because I do want to hear this. I want to hear the hyena one.
So we were talking about birth control, which blocks the ovulatory cycle, which women are the most likely to pretend to reproduce, or they act. So their highest testosterone peak is during ovulation. Most sex is driven by testosterone. People get angry at me when I explain it, but do lesbians or gay guys have more sex? It's very, very easy. Like,
Right.
yeah. And they joke, the old joke, which I always run this past.
Well, I think
lesbians that I make
testosterone
friends
gets
with.
a bad rap, but yeah, it is kind of important. Yeah.
Well, and if you put, so when trans men start taking it, they notice a common refrain is like, it's turning me into a bad person. Like I enter a room and I'm just staring at butts and I don't know what's going on. And it's like, oh, the male gaze ain't that much fun, is it?
That's being a man.
Did you think we just consciously went, I'm going to look at that? No, you walk into the room, you go, oh God, I'm staring at a butt. I need to stop that. And we do our best not to do that because it would make me uncomfortable if I were a lady. I get it. But
yeah.
So anyway,
but it is important.
Hormonal birth control. I mean, I've heard people theorize it's why. Have you noticed how effeminate and weird a lot of men are?
Yeah.
Well, that's why they're more attracted to it. Is they've been taken out of a lot of the feminine things they did by leveling out their cycle by using hormonal birth control.
You know, this is funny. This is exactly,
and it goes back to the monkey thing I was telling you about.
This is exactly what the other guy I had on Monday was talking about. He was saying that birth control is affecting hormones and it's making men more effeminate because women are now seeking someone that's effeminate. And then he said the next part of this situation is they get married, they get off birth control to have kids, and then they realize they're not as attracted to their husband because he's effeminate.
Well, and it's not their fault. That's what, like the barber I made angry, I made my barber angry and she cut my hair all screwed up. You're very good at those videos. I haven't had a good one since I left Colorado, but and one of my popular ones, of course, my hair looks absolutely ridiculous because my barber said she put on heels and she wasn't attracted to her boyfriend anymore. And I went, no, that's natural. Like you don't just, it isn't a sign of who you are attracted to isn't a sign of whether or not you're a good person. You're attracted to them for certain reasons.
Right.
And if height's her bag, and she put on high heels and she's taller than her guy now and she's not attracted to him anymore, it doesn't mean like that's a fault of your character. It's like,
yeah, no. I think that's a big problem that we have right now is we think that somehow you should just like everybody because that's the nice thing to do.
Well, it's so ridiculous.
But it is ridiculous because at the end of the day, it's like, look, you just like people and that just happens. It's just what it is. Yeah.
Well, and we have, what's it called? Telescopic philanthropy or whatever. Like people assume, like people think paying your taxes makes you a good person because taxes help people. But again, you know, okay, so I didn't finish why. So I said to the lady that was cutting my hair, I was like, no, you're just not attracted to him anymore because you're taller than him in the heels.
Right.
That flipped a little switch in your brain. Like when I was interested in this lady, and it's not, I was saying it's not all evolutionary because I saw this lady with armpit hair and I was like, ugh. And then that's how I found out my barber had armpit hair. I didn't realize it. So she got really upset.
Oh, she got upset.
The next time I went in there, she looked like she was going to cry. The barber next to us started laughing real hard when I said that. And she got real quiet. Yeah. Well, we used to kind of, it doesn't matter, but yeah, it really hurt her feelings. And the next time I went in there, she butchered my hair. And I went back to just be like, I'm not going to let this small little
That's
thing.
petty, though, to do that.
I was going there for years. So she found a guy. They're basically married.
I think it's gross, too. I don't like it.
Yeah, and that's another weird thing because we should like it.
Yeah.
I don't. There's no reason.
Well, why
not
should
to like
we?
it.
Because I think armpit hair for a man. I think it makes sense that a man wouldn't like as much.
Why
hair.
is it there?
I don't know. I think
reduce friction.
This might sound weird, but I feel like the reason, that's the main reason.
No, that's why it's there.
But I think the reason why we don't like seeing it, and this is going to sound gross, but I think it makes a woman seem younger. It's like...
Not just that. It goes back to the thing we were just talking about. It used to be more feminine to not work. So not having to do things that involved whether or not there'd be friction is more. It's the same reason they wear like lipstick makes them look like they're ovulating because your lips turn. Yeah, it's all
and the blush on the cheeks, the same one.
Mm-hmm.
It makes them look like they're ready to go.
Like, I'll give you the worst example. So Chinese foot binding.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
Do you know that lasted over 1,000 years?
Yeah, yeah. I'm surprised that the foot. See, that's where I don't
And it was
understand
about
evolution.
being more dainty and feminine.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where I don't understand evolution, where I'm like, you think the foot would have evolved over being smashed that many times to the point where the foot's like, all right, they're doing this a lot. Like, how do we make it so that this is at least not painful? You know what I mean?
Well, no, pain's only there to alert your conscious mind of things.
Yeah, but I think that if like a human being is doing something to their body for thousands of years.
What about birth?
Well, what do you mean? Well, yeah, but then that's a perfect example.
Yeah.
You give birth, now your body is accustomed to that.
I don't think so.
You still feel the pain, though. I guess you're right.
They still split open like fireworks.
Yeah. Well, I guess that is a good point. I'll take that.
And we sew them back together, and
sometimes you got a C-section and all that.
I was C-section, yeah.
Yeah, that is true.
If you didn't know,
I
that's one of the
argument.
big ADHD things is preemie children. I guess your brain doesn't develop fully, and it doesn't have enough dopamine, so you need more dopamine. So that was my point about, like, weed just is one of those things that happened to fill it with dopamine, so people that were dopamine deficient just started using that stuff, and then, they're trying to make it to maximally grow dopamine.
But the hyenas.
Okay, so yeah, that was the point. So is male birth control a good thing? No, I think it's the end of the human race, probably. Because men generally like to, like, why would I want to be gay? Because I like casual sex and I don't like, responsibility.
Right. No, I think it'd be fun. Right.
Yeah, so.
And they're just as excited to do it as you are.
Oh, God, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be great. It'd be a great time.
Well, I have a relative who's gay, and he was saying it's really hard to get into a relationship, and I was like, why would you want to get into a relationship?
Right.
But he's a much
Well, I
more
guess it's like a grass
person.
is always greener also type situation.
I'm just never in them. Like, I'm just not good at that. I like being alone.
I'm the same way.
I try to date every other year for about 4 months, and then I'm like, still don't like it, and it used to be my excuse was I didn't want to have kids because I have all these other goals and all that. But my friend's dad used to say, he was like, we'd be talking about what we wanted to do. And he's like, I know exactly what you want to do. And we'd say, what? And he'd be like, what you're doing right now. People are always doing what they want to do. They just got all these other ideas in their head about how it's going to be different. But
Right. Well, then you're pretty happy right now, then, I'm assuming.
If I stop. The other day I decided I was partially retired. And I was happy again. When I want to complete goals, I will admit, so 34 didn't bug me much. 35 is bugging me a lot.
Really, why?
It's more of a tipping point than 30 felt like. And 30 I was during the pandemic.
30 hit me pretty hard.
Did it?
Yeah, I felt pretty insecure. Like, when I turned 30, I was like, I got to quit my job. I got to do things that I want to do because, like, the clock is ticking. And my 20s,
really? I didn't get that till just now.
Really? Like, yeah.
Well, COVID started, and I started living in Airbnbs, which was an old goal.
You wanted to live in Airbnbs?
I wanted to just travel around, yeah.
I've never wanted to travel.
It's exhausting. It's very overrated. It was a millennial thing. Are you a Zoomer?
I am a millennial.
Okay.
Very end.
Yeah, so you were probably after. It was the national religion for. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, travel was like the highest form of. It was a religious experience for a lot of people because they.
I just don't. You know what? Also,
they traveled for the sake of it, mostly to take pictures for Instagram.
Exactly, and my family traveled a lot when I was young. Because I'm Brazilian.
Well, that would do it. You're Brazilian?
Yeah, I'm Brazilian.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, and we would go there every year, and it always was just a hassle. And I was always like, I want to go back to the things that I like doing and back to like my comfort zone. I don't get a lot of. I don't feel great moving around all the time. It's not good for me.
I love putting everything I own in my car.
That's a good feeling, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But I do also love putting everything that I own in here. I don't think I will ever...
This is very home. This is very like a person that likes their home. And
yeah.
Like, I can't get a dog because I would neglect it. I would love to have a dog, but I would neglect the shit out of it.
Yeah.
And I don't like the idea of not just being able to, like... I don't know.
Well, my dog is also very easy. She doesn't mind.
I think everyone should have dogs. Except for the people that. So when I lived at my Airbnb, people upstairs would leave their dogs home for 8 hours a day.
Right.
And they would bark for 8 hours because they're in a new place that they're supposed to be guarding. They can hear people in the basement, which means there's intruders, and they're just doing their job. Like when people yell at their dog for barking, it's so stupid.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I get why you would, but
She doesn't bark.
no, that's wonderful. And so my maid has I shouldn't say maid. One of the cleaners has a dog, and they wanted to bring the dog to live in the basement. And I said, if the dog barks, you can't stay. And I guess the dog doesn't bark, so wonderful.
It worked out.
It used to drive me crazy.
Yeah, that's
Like-
something I can't handle is a dog barking. That was actually the biggest
Hours.
concern. Yeah. But when I got her, she was very quiet, and they were like, she's never barked. So I was like, all right, that's a win for me. Because I was actually going to get a cat. I was actually always.
I love cats. I'm allergic, but I love them so much.
Yeah, cats are fantastic.
And I think my favorite band, That Handsome Devil, which it's mostly one guy, but they have this song, and he says, dogs and cats have Stockholm Syndrome, which...
I agree.
Yeah, especially for indoor. I think cats... and I tell people this, and they get mad at me, but I'm like, if you have an indoor cat, you have an abuse victim cat. Like,
Yeah.
they should be allowed to go outside
Yeah.
and kill... Which my other friend gets angry at me because she's like, they're responsible for 1 billion bird deaths a year. It's literally a bird holocaust every year of...
But that's the way of life. I mean,
no, that's what I say. I'm like, they shouldn't even have... We shipped them here in
that's
boats.
like saying sharks are responsible for millions of fish deaths every year. It's
They
like,
clean the ocean.
Yeah, that's what they do. It's nature. I think it's funny.
Well, but we did...
I think it's funny how people are always like, I think it's interesting that cats are the only animal that you can just let roam the neighborhood totally unguarded, unleashed. Like
I love
literally
it.
the only pet that can do that. And
I love it.
I love it too. I think it is great.
But they don't exist in... So if you said it's not natural, so it's not natural for the density of cats that we have in probably every modern country is... Because think about how do cats live in nature? One cat per, 80 miles? Or not 80, but maybe 5.
For the big cats.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's all there... There wasn't little cats.
Well, I'm assuming there must have been. There's like little...
Bobcats probably as small as it gets before we started domesticating them. And
There's-
bobcats will fuck you up.
There are some tiny cats in Asia that they flop around, but they're not. They act like big cats, and they are still pretty sparse because they don't like being around each other.
They're always sparse. Cats
Yeah.
are always sparse.
Right.
Yeah, so the reason they kill so many is because we have... And they do it for fun and boredom, which... Again, that's why, like, my deepest beliefs about humanity is... there's some philosopher that said if we had everything that we wanted, people would kill each other out of boredom. I absolutely believe that.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
You think so?
Yep.
Yeah, I think so. I think that is probably true.
I used to...
It took me 2 seconds to be like, yeah, that's probably right.
I used to install furnaces in the Superhood in Columbus, and families would... Not a single member of the household had ever worked. They would be sitting there smoking cigarettes like zombies, like glass-eyed. And I remember I went to the basement, and the basement was a lawn chair in front of like a TV, and the kid just looked miserable. And I was like, if I were him, I would have been in a gang 5 years ago. There's no question.
Just to do something fun.
Yeah, well, and it's in a lot more harmony with how humans used to live. Like if you read Brave New World,
Right.
the living humans are the ones out there in tribes.
It feels like you're
doing
part of
shit.
something. Yeah. Something
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, and then we have my favorite movie is still probably American Beauty, which is
Oh,
probably
with
half of
Kevin
why I don't
Spacey?
have kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Kevin Spacey. He's one of the most evil people probably that have ever been in Hollywood.
But man, he's
he
good.
is entertaining as hell. He
But
went
he's
on
so fucking good, man.
after being credibly accused by like 15 people, half of which were found dead.
Oh shit.
He's having them murdered. It's as clear as day.
Oh my
One of them got
God.
ran over by a car out of nowhere, going really fast on a road where people don't drive like that.
You know,
And
it's
then he
funny.
goes on an interview as Frank Underwood, the character he plays on television, to like make a joke out of the whole thing. He's such a sociopath.
I think he actually is a bit crazy too.
He's very...
He was grabbing like like guys' asses and shit, and he was doing all sorts of crazy shit.
But
and
it's not that crazy in Hollywood.
But you have to be a little bit like that if you're going to keep playing roles like that. You know what I mean? That's why he's so good.
To be in that industry, you have to be comfortable with and perpetuating sexual abuse of minors. I have a joke where I go,
you're going to get fucking killed. If you
good. Fuck them, dude.
Yeah.
I've already lived way too long. I should have been in the 27 club. I'm starting to get wrinkles. I was supposed to die pretty.
Yeah? Why do you think you should have died in the 27 club?
I'd have been a pirate if given the opportunity.
That would have been fun.
When I said the thing about I'm a house cat. You can't put me in the environment of alley cats. But there are people that weren't born to I'm allergic to suburbs and like that. Like if I had children, they would have a very lonely mother, probably. I don't like that about me. That's why I don't want to have them.
Right.
Yeah. Or I used to joke even when I was like, I have 1,000 jokes about children because it's such a huge...
So then what do you do with your spare time? You just go out to the club, obviously, and you...
No.
Comedy...
Yeah. Oh, comedy club. I thought you meant like the hit on people club.
No. Comedy club, you do that, and then what? You spend time at home, you work.
Yeah, when I lived in Colorado, it was mostly like I built a kitchen and I redid the front yard into rocks so that I wouldn't have to mow it. And then like I replaced all the plumbing fixtures and I paid somebody to rebuild the fence, but like I was turning a house into 2 apartments for a while. That was supposed to fund me going to New York or LA, which that's why I might go to New York. But I'm getting kind of old to just like go to reestablish myself in comedy scenes. So yeah, I don't really know what I should do. I always find
so that's
stuff
what we were
to
talking
do.
about is 35. 35 hit you.
Well, more than... Yeah, you have to decide are you certain you don't want kids? That's an important thing to consider.
So that's the big thing that you're coming across right now is like, do I want kids for sure or no?
Well, I'm certain I don't, but that's a weird thing. And my family line.
Let me ask you
dies
this,
with me.
though, because everyone says they don't, and I think it's normal to say you don't. Do you think it would make you a better person if you had kids?
Probably. I might even stick around. I would think that it was possible I was screwing them up. So one of the reasons I wouldn't want to have them is because, in Ohio, where I'm from, the most common arrangement, we're one of the worst states for paternal rights or whatever. Most kids I grew up with, their dad saw them every other weekend, and that's like a decent deal in Ohio for custody.
Right.
Is 4 days a month or whatever it is. So they all hated their dads because they're around their moms all the time, and they didn't, people don't leave each other because they like each other.
Right.
And sometimes the dads were pieces of shit, but a lot of the times all my friends hated their dads, and I always thought that was really confusing.
Do you hate yours?
Meh. Not when I was younger, no. I actually kind of looked up to them too much.
Were they divorced?
No, everyone else I knew was, and I hated I would have preferred being divorced if they were divorced because I would have been able to... My whole goal in life was to leave home. Like, as soon as I got a car, I was never home. And by get a car, I meant I worked at, fast food restaurants till
Where'd
I could
you go?
afford one. Oh, I just started hanging out in the city and, quit going to church was a big thing. I used to have to go to Catholic church like 3 or 4 times a week.
That sucks.
Oh, I hated it.
Yeah. I did that
was
for a
not
while
into
when
that.
I was very young, and then we stopped.
I would have liked to stop. I might still be religious if I didn't become so allergic to it. But yeah, I'm very, very, very allergic to it.
So then you were hanging out in the city, and then you were like, all right, I'm going to get into comedy. How did that happen?
Oh, I've told this on podcasts before. I'll do the short version. The one I was just on, that's all I talked about. But that's what he was asking me. So I was retired when I was 18 through 21, I was in community college, which I figured out was a scam, and I just did it online. I worked part-time at United Dairy Farmer or loading trucks and doing all this other stuff. And then I just hung out. We used to play music. I was into music. I wasn't very good at it. And we'd like climb abandoned buildings and stupid stuff. And then when I was getting out of college, I realized that you could just move to go work at a ski resort and teach snowboarding, which I thought I could start my own business doing that. It's a whole thing, but I broke one of my arms and I broke my other arm. And they asked me what my passion was so they could put it on my badge. And I said comedy, and they're like, what are you doing out here? And I was like,
good question.
I like snowboarding. I don't know.
I'm out of here.
Well, when I was really young, I was a super hippie. So, like, I thought people should ride their bikes everywhere. I really believed in climate change. And I thought...
Oh, what changed?
I mean, Detroit's a big part of it.
That implies you really don't believe in it now.
No, it's silly.
But you do believe that it's like there are things changing in the climate.
Yeah, and they always have.
Right.
Yeah, a lady told me I was going to buy my first Airbnb was going to be in Philadelphia, and she's like, it's going to be underwater in 12 years.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
It's like there are actually people out there that believe this.
That's insane.
It's about, it's hard to control people who have individual automobiles. It's gross to burn coal. You know, China's disgusting. India's disgusting because they largely burn coal. And, you know, LA used to be covered in fog, but it's mostly just about, I mean, you know.
I was talking to my parents about this today. How
you talk to your parents still? That's fascinating.
Yeah,
I love that.
I went to lunch with them.
That's adorable. So they're from around
It's
here.
gonna blow your mind. They're 4 houses that way.
That there's never in a million years when I do that.
Really? Yeah.
Never.
Well, they're not too like they don't really.
No, I'm sure they're cool. That's what I'm
impose.
saying. I'm just saying my family is not like that.
Yeah, they don't really impose. I mean, there are times where I'm like, Mom, what are you doing? Like she'll try to play with my lawn or something, and but it's light, you know, it doesn't really matter.
Did you buy this house?
Yeah, I bought this house.
That actually makes sense. You're in the mortgage industry.
Yeah, I sold mortgages for when I got out of college. I was doing mortgages and real estate, and I did that until I was like 23 when I started, and then I still sell mortgages, but just like independently and not that much volume. And I'd been doing that for maybe the last 2 years. But before that, I was corporate. And that's what I was saying earlier, like with the whole 30s thing. I turned 30 and I was like, I don't want to work this hard into my 30s. I just don't want to do that. I don't want to just...
What do you want to do?
I want to do this. I want to do
podcast?
Video. Oh, podcasting is part of it. But like videos, I enjoy the videos. I enjoy comedy. I enjoy the podcast. I think it's a good way to meet people. And it's just good to, you know, just get out and do something new. Because like what I was doing before was I was working like 30 mortgage files a month, and I'm just stuck on my computer all day.
Like lawyers.
Yeah, and it's like I'm making great money, but I'm fucking miserable.
Oh, no, there's no... Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a lawyer. I was going to do the same thing as in Better Call Saul, where he goes to correspondence. It's funny because it's exactly what my plan was, because you don't have to have a bachelor's degree to go to court. And then you have to sue the state of California to become a lawyer. It's a whole thing. But when I learned, basically, unless you go to one of the top 7 law schools, you sit on a computer in a basement all day writing contracts, and you make $200,000, which is a ton. But anyway, like you said, that's not why people are alive. I don't really know why they're alive, because I thought that I wanted to just travel the world by myself, but that's kind of...
You're getting bored.
Yeah, and... I will admit, last time I went snowboarding, I was like, I'm not going to do anything new on a snowboard.
Right.
Like, the only reason I would still... Like, I was teaching a lady I was dating how to do it. And I was like, it'd probably be fun to teach a kid how to do this.
You know, the more I'm talking to you, the more I'm thinking, I think a kid... That's why I asked that earlier. A kid would probably be, like, a good thing for you.
Yeah, but it's not about me.
Right.
It's, what... Do I recommend life so highly that I would thrust it onto another person? Do I think that I think, okay, here's where we can get into stuff that might be clippable. Public school is prison for children, and I would never put one in it with a gun to my head.
Okay, but if you had a kid, you don't have to do that.
I'd have to find somebody that's comfortable and willing to homeschool. I have set up my business in a way to where I would be able to help with that, but I would need to find other parents that I trust which I don't because there was
All this sounds
molestation
expensive.
on both sides of my family.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Which all comes down to more money too, because private schooling.
Well,
all
even if
this.
you have the money, private school. This is something I learned the other day, and it was shocking to me. I'm not certain it's real, but go ahead and look it up. I don't care. Supposedly, 10% of children in public school are subject to some form of sexual abuse.
Yeah.
It rivals the Catholic Church. It's just everyone. It's fun to make fun of the Catholic Church, you know.
Right.
But it's such a huge degree.
From the other students or just teachers?
No, teachers. I don't even know about the other students. Maybe
Exclusively teachers? Because I think student
no.
to
That's
student.
a good question. I didn't ask.
I think student to student is probably up there.
That's a good point.
Because I can't imagine that many teachers are getting away with it. It has to be student.
I knew
to
someone who transitioned whose high school sports coach said that he could fit his dick through a Cheerio. How?
That's crazy.
Well, in the 70s,
is
everyone
funny
had
out
been
of
like,
context.
it's kind of funny. Well, like I said, she's a lady now. But yeah, so is that sexual abuse? I don't know. Kind of.
Just a comment?
He's looking at a kid's dick and telling him it's not big enough.
Oh, I
That's
thought he
a
was saying that
weird
about his
thing.
own dick.
No.
Oh,
In the
I thought he was
locker
saying
room.
my dick.
No.
Yeah, that is weird. That
And
is
who,
weird.
first of all, who notices that? So my sports teams, we didn't shower, which I remember being very happy about.
Yeah.
The other kids did. I wouldn't find it weird now. Like I've noticed, like I do yoga here, and I shower because we're in Texas, and it's absolutely disgusting. Like I'm soaking wet by the time I'm done with it. And I guess some of the people just get in their cars right after that, but I take a shower. So a lot of the other people in the locker room aren't naked. And then I've noticed, like I was wearing a fluorescent pink shirt yesterday, and I met this cute lady at the store, and I remember she was looking at me funny. I was like, does she think I'm gay because I'm wearing a bright pink shirt? Like, Texas is a little different.
Well, I mean,
so
in
I don't know
Austin, though, Austin, I mean, people.
It's the least Texas in that way, but it's still,
Yeah.
you go to the store, there's still an armed guard. It's not like that anywhere except, like, you know, cities that are, I mean, even Detroit doesn't have that.
Right.
The more dangerous the city is, the less likely you're to see someone with a gun. So anyway, it's still very Texas. Like I was jogging here last year. I lived here for a month last year, and like in the city limits, right up the street from like the Trans Flag coffee shop, there's a gun store. You know, it's still Texas in a lot of ways. But anyway, so are they more comfortable with people just being naked in the locker room here than Houston? I'm sure a lot, but it's still kind of Texas-y that you're like, are the guys in this yoga place? Because the yoga place is like they said, oh, you are from Colorado. You go to yoga.
I think a lot of guys here also peacock as a gay guy to pick up women.
That's terrifying.
I think that's definitely a thing that's going on, too.
Like fish do.
Yeah, kind of. Exactly.
If you want to explain that, I've worn myself out. But
I mean, I think just speaking from the guys, not the fish. Like I think guys here, like they do the nails and they go to the events and the rallies, and it's because they know that there are women there, and it's a method of just being around them. And then if you're their ally, then you have an in.
and they're the creepy ones.
Yeah, it's like a cuttlefish.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you have a cuttlefish but they're all under. That's the thing about the cuttlefish analogy that you got to remember. At the end of the day, they're both under a massive male cuttlefish, and then the mating happens under the male cuttlefish. You see
Right.
what I'm saying?
So these are the ones that would. Their friend has sex they regret with them once, and they never talk about it again. But it's still kind of their goal because they can't compete.
I mean, I wouldn't even say regret. I mean, I think at the end of the day, that's not going to be their final partner. At the end of the day, the final partner is...
Unless they're on hormonal birth control. And that's
Exactly.
What they're into. Yeah.
But then, even then, eventually you're going to have to get off that birth control. And then you're back with
Not anymore. People don't have... The amount of... since the pandemic, it's like... Of people that don't already have children, it's almost 50% don't want them at all. Like, and so just to finish the point from earlier, what happens is everyone's like, oh, good, the earth will be more happy and the weather will come down or whatever they use to scare people into thinking that it's like getting dramatically worse in a bunch of different ways, which again, in China and India, it is.
Right.
But do you want them to not have an industrial revolution and not, which that's a whole different argument. But so what happens if the population collapses is there isn't a person, specialization goes down. So, if the population were to reduce by a third, we would lose all of the extra things you get to have by having so many people that can trade with each other.
Right, because there's people that you're losing. So you're losing luxuries that you've had in the past because there's less people.
Not just luxuries, everything. Everything would go down. So it would...
But also the need for those things go down because there's less people buying them. So, I mean, there is a
the more
swing there that's for the benefit.
I mean, the benefit of the population going down, there's probably a ton of them.
I bet it's a lot. When we talk about it, I'm not even panicked about...
I'm not panicked. It's just
I don't think
would
it's
I want to
bad
have
at all.
children... Would I want to have children...
The thing is...
I don't know what I would tell them about the future. I don't believe in our country. I don't believe in...
Oh, shit.
What?
I mean, I totally see your position. That's very true. But that's like the deep... Like, to have a baby, it grows up, and you're like, I don't know what we're doing here. Like, this is all
I thought
fucked.
about lying to them about being Christian. That was like my best guess 5 years ago.
Do you think that's what your parents did, or do you think they were actually
No,
Christian?
my mom's no.
But is that
my
lie
dad's an
better? Is
atheist
that
and-
lie better than where we are now? Probably.
Well, I didn't have that. My dad's an atheist, and my mom's got hit in the head when she was little, and she's a religious fundamentalist, which this author that I like says he thinks the correct state of the human mind is religious zealotry, because it basically gets rid of all
the bullshit.
Yeah, he would call it an obscene word, but
Yeah.
basically he thinks everything else is a waste of time.
But I do I get that.
Yeah,
Like,
it's the
that
opposite
makes
of American
sense.
Beauty. American Beauty's, like nobody wants that. They feel like they do. But it's really sad.
The suburban life.
Well, especially the way they portrayed it. But yeah, sexless marriages,
Because I don't want a suburban life either. I live here because it's convenient, and I
don't blame you.
I like it, and it's like, all right. But I mean, I'm not taking it personal. I'm saying that in American Beauty, here's a guy with a life, a family, and
Well,
he's
he had
like,
a wife
this
he didn't have
sucks.
sex with.
Yeah.
He didn't have any hobbies. His kid hated him. They listened to jazz or whatever before dinner. Like it was like Death by a Thousand Cuts thing.
But you made it sound like he wanted that life. I don't think he ever
thought
really...
he did when he was... I mean, the people that grew up in the 50s and 70s even...
They probably did want that life.
Well, yeah, I mean...
Generation X. It's not quite boomer.
A lot of them, yeah.
Maybe it is boomer.
Well, the alternatives aren't that much better. I mean, like they said about the people that... Like the Sex and the City generation. That doesn't make you happy either.
What, just flopping around and banging everybody?
Oh, it definitely doesn't.
No, yeah, I don't think so. But, I don't know. I think the suburban life can be sad. I think you just don't want to get trapped. I think at the end of the day,
That's
it's like
my personality, yeah.
you don't want to be doing something just because you think it's something that everyone wants, and then once
capable of doing it.
yeah, well then once you're there, you're fucked because
I wouldn't be though. I just don't think I fit. I'm a square peg, round hole. I just don't think. That's why I've been so cautious about not having children. Is I'm just terrified that I would just start having start losing my mind and leave, because I'm very good at packing up and leaving.
So you actually have that fear that you would just dip.
Or that I wouldn't and I'd be stuck, like you said.
Yeah. But so you turn 35, you have this
Not
critical...
yet, soon.
Okay, so why is that hitting you more? What's the thought process there that it's like, oh, no, this is real? Like, what is that thought process? Because I said
the
something
last
about, like,
4
I haven't
years-
done anything with my life or anything. Like, what was going through yours?
The last 4 years I was stuck in Colorado Springs because I didn't rent my basement still needed more work, and I kept having contractors bail on me and stuff, but I wanted to get the basement rent out because I didn't want to pay the mortgage out of my pocket if I went somewhere else, and I wanted to just do comedy, and I was going to go to New York or LA, but both those places are increasingly worthless. Maybe not New York. That's why I'm still considering it. But LA, like, they're making movies in Georgia. They're making movies in Albuquerque.
So you're saying, like, why start over in a new spot? You're starting to have
No,
that
I
thought.
want to start it. I don't know what I'm doing. Do I? Because unless I find my own fan base, it doesn't really matter. And even like I said, if you get an hour of comedy, if you have 35,000 or whatever,
Yeah.
that's enough to where they'll probably book you to headline. But even that, like just being an unknown headliner is already such a drastic pay cut. Like features at the club circuit might make 30,000 and pay for their own travel or something like that.
I don't even. The thing
And then
is,
headliners maybe 50 or 60 and pay for their own travel.
right? And for me, it's like I don't really know enough about the show business in general to even get in there. I know a lot about social media. I'm pretty good at that. I don't know enough about the comic show business to even.
It's becoming social media. The rest of it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We used to open for YouTube people that they put asses in seats. So like Stormy Daniels, everyone wants to get mad at her for doing stand up, or Hawk Tua. It's like this comic I like in Denver said, you fucking kidding me? I'll sign it. I'll open for her as long as she's on the road. I don't give a shit. Why would you? Like Jeremy Piven's the most famous example. Everyone hates Jeremy Piven's shows. He has the feature come out and perform again after he's done. That's how bad he is at stand-up. But people come out and see him because he's Jeremy Piven. He was in Entourage. I've never watched it, but...
Oh, the guy
yeah,
that's kind of the mean agent guy?
I have no idea. I've never watched it.
I think I know.
Yeah.
Jeremy. He's like bald.
No clue. I've just heard it was Dave Landau used to host. So I used to get to do guest spots for Dave Landau because he was so dark. They knew that I wasn't going to out-dark him. And my home club did take care of me. They were good people. But yeah, I've just had the goal of I want to be a stand-up comedian. I used to date a lot of polyamorous people, which I didn't think that was even close to sustainable for having children.
That sounds like a great situation for everything you just explained to me, because then it's like you can kind of go off and do your own thing.
That's all I've ever done.
Yeah.
I used to say I was the fun boyfriend, and then they had the house boyfriend, which is, he would do the dishes, and I would wave at him like, I'm taking your girl out.
I'm out of here,
She's not coming home.
That's crazy.
And I didn't ever want to meet them, but for some reason, the type of women that are into that, they get off on
meeting
the whole dynamic.
Dude, why do you think that is?
You
think there's a weirdness there?
Yeah, the guys that sign up for that. So I was different because I didn't care about it.
Right.
And I didn't think they were ever going to be my girlfriend. It was like...
You were just there to kind of hang out.
I've always liked taking people on dates, stuff like that. But I just... and then there's times when I am dating somebody and I'll find out that they had another boyfriend or whatever. And I'm like, well, that makes sense because I never have enough time. Like once a week's a lot for me. Every day just starts melting my brain.
Right.
So yeah, I didn't like pursue those relationships. That's just, I would wind up in them. And, when I would meet because a lot of, I used to joke about it. I was like, I'd meet women and they were like, hey, we had sex. That means all of my problems are your problems now. Hooray. And it was like,
not great.
They'd want to live with you or, except at the same time, a lot of them, like it shocks me there are grown people don't know how to cook or clean and they just don't do it. It's very surprising to me, but yeah. So anyway, it was more, I used to just spend all my time at open mics. That's why when we were at Creek the other night,
you were saying like the polyamorous girl. Do you think that she gets off?
Oh, there's a bunch. Yeah. So
you guys meeting?
They get off on, they have a male harem and it's like the female hyena.
Yeah. It makes them feel powerful or something.
Well, and the guys are just taking what they can get, almost all of them. That's why it would be so confusing when they met me, because I was like, like my one... I try not to... I won't be specific, so no one knows who I'm talking about. But one time, I was dating a lady, and my friend who hadn't dated anybody in 7 years started dating her. And she's like, oh, by the way... I started seeing your friend, and I was like, oh, well, that's not going to end well. So, like, if he starts lecturing me on treating you better, I'm just not. So, how about you two just date, and we can be friends?
Right.
And they're married now, and they have a kid. But the idea that I would have stayed with that person, never in a million years, because when I first started hanging out with her, I'd pick her up from her and her boyfriend's house. And I'm like, that's never going to be me.
Right, right.
And I felt bad for that guy. I just didn't have time to feel bad for him because he signed up for, some people like that. Like a lot of people in the Bible, the whole thing about the Bible is the people want to be slaves and God doesn't want them to want to be slaves. Like it's so foreign to everyone, the idea that people would just want to be told what to do their whole life. Plenty of guys are absolutely
totally
thrilled.
fine with that.
Yeah, women act like men are, and a lot of them are domineering, and they think believing in traditional values means you have to like subjugate them or something. But tons of men would be thrilled to just get bossed around all day, like you saw in Everybody Loves Raymond or Tool Time or whatever, Home Improvement. All of the shows from the 90s were the lady runs the show, the guy's the idiot that's lucky she's keeping him alive, which they had to do because the shows before that were like the Honeymooners, where the joke was, I'm going to beat my wife. That was the joke.
Right.
Yeah, so
I want to hail right to the moon. That one. Yep. Yeah.
So yeah, and then it became, there was a show called Yes Dear. Did you ever see Yes Dear?
No, what was that one?
It was worse. I want Ray Romano tried for war crimes, first of all. And it was 10 times worse. Yeah. So
you think these guys are just like, oh, I can just get whatever I can get, and it's putting them in a situation where the female is becoming the harem owner, like you said.
Not in these shows. No, they just kept going down that route.
Right.
So
you think it's evolving that way?
I don't know about evolving because what we have is exogenous. Like,
you think that's You think that's why? You think that's contributing to the population decline? Like, how does all of this combine?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think basically, so if times got really bad, it would go back to a lot more, because gender roles were really defined when everyone was agrarian and, like when they were tribes that spent all their day hunting and going to war. And then, like, for example, so I'm colorblind. Women are almost never colorblind. Yeah. Because they used to spend time gathering, and being able to tell the difference between berry colors is very important if you don't want to pick poison berries.
Right.
I'm not saying that's the right way to live. I'm just saying what I see is society just keeps getting weaker and weaker until it eventually collapses, and then everything gets really difficult again, and then it goes back to everyone's living in tribes and fighting with each other again.
So you think that's where we're headed?
In the Bible, the Tower of Babel, the one of the things they mentioned right before, they tried to build a tower all the way to God, and they tried to create one universal religion. And I think right around when we get to that point, what happens is what's happening now, which is everybody's national myths start seeming really silly because they can't all be right. Like, the one that's most likely to be right is Muslims because there's the most of them and they're the most willing to kill people over it. So that's probably the most...
as far as right can be, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah.
So...
which might be enough.
It is in a lot of places, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and they actually believe in it. We don't... like, Christians... like, Catholics don't... The Pope is like, it's cool to be gay and I'm not that angry about abortion. It's like... cool, me neither, but that means you're not Catholic.
Right. You got to stick to the beliefs.
Well, if you want it to continue, yeah.
Well, now you're sounding more like a conservative. Now it almost sounds like you're saying...
it doesn't work like that, though. The conservative places aren't having any better of a time.
Well, not conservative in the sense of like
Japan is incredibly conservative.
Japan is conservative, I would agree with you, but you're sounding more conservative religious, where it's like we need to be within the frame of like man and woman. You need to be religious.
I'm not prescribing these things.
I know you're not, but it almost what it sounds like you're saying is that seems to be the end all. What it's going to end up happening to us. We're going to try this experiment in liberalizing ourselves, but at the end of the day, it's going to fall apart, and we're going to be right back where we started, which is man and woman and these conservative like ideas. Is what it sounds like. And I'm not attacking that. I think that just sounds like your point. Would you agree?
I'm describing what I see, and I think that it's a cycle that we go through, yeah. It seems to be a cycle we go through. I really like, if you listen to Kurt Metzger on Joe Rogan, I love Kurt Metzger. He's he writes for the Jimmy Dore show, which I can't. I just the ones that are super political, I don't really listen to. But he talks about one of the gods in Rome was like a, what was it? He had both sets of genitals, and that made him too promiscuous or something. So that the god above him punished him by cutting a set of it off. So anyway, there were people that used to they would cut their genital offs for some ritual purpose and parade around the street screaming about stuff. And it's just like, he was like, I don't think anything's new under the sun. And it's like, yeah, I think there's humans have been humans for probably millions of years. And I don't think we think that like America's when we discovered how to be like nice people that are accepting of other people.
Right. We're just like Rome, essentially.
It seems that way.
I do agree with that. Yeah.
And at the end of Rome, this author I like talks about it. He said there's letters that you'll read from rich people. They're sending each other letters, and they're about like where I went on vacation and basically how bougie they're bragging about being bougie. And they're like, oh, but we couldn't travel to here because the roads weren't safe. And they just glaze over it like nothing happened. Like,
right.
We can't travel here because the roads aren't safe. And they never describe why the roads aren't safe and what it's about. And it's like, you know, the same thing you would see in like San Francisco, where it's like they're all just talking about the fancy club they went to with the $30 drink, and they live in the $5,000 apartment, but they walk past literal zombies.
There's a ghetto that you can't go to.
Not just the ghettos, the people living everywhere are like, you can watch people, you could just go there and watch people overdose on heroin, or not even heroin anymore, fentanyl.
Well, I think San Francisco is kind of an outlier. It's like,
no, but it just sounds like the same thing. Is people stop caring about anything, and it starts to collapse, but they're not even bothered to notice because they're taking pictures for Instagram. It just seems like the exact same thing used to be going on then, and it just seems like a cycle we go through. I don't think it's good. I'm not saying like women should be like, I don't believe in, I think stay-at-home moms was a weird fiction that, you know, I think when the kids 0 through 4,
but that's probably what was going on in the tribal
better
world.
if they could. It was.
In the tribal world, it was you're a stay-at-home mom, and the guys all go out and try to find a man.
Well, stay-at-home meant,
you know what I mean.
But
you're staying with the kids.
Not always. Sometimes they go. You know, they go get water. There was a ton of work. The kids were so kids.
Home in that
it's
sense
another joke
is
that
defines like where the kids are. I feel like. Where are the kids? What's the safest place for a nomadic tribal place?
Yeah, but the kids were, so what I joke about why was Western culture homophobic is basically they started fermenting booze, and then people went from being nomadic to stationary, and then they became very agricultural based. And if you didn't have enough agriculture, your tribe would, the group of people would starve to death. And I think the reason they were against, it wasn't that they're against being gay. They were like, quit fucking that dude and help us make farm equipment.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I have a bit about this too, actually. The bit was basically that men in the past were seen almost like inflation. It was like, you're not contributing at all. Like, you're just going to bang the guy. Like,
that's exactly it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like there's no contribution here. You are not making kids. You're not building a family. You're not doing anything. Nothing is happening that's going to help this village thrive.
Right.
You need to go bang a woman, have a kid. That kid grows, helps with the field, and you're not having kids is making the price of everything. Like it was literally the selfish thing
that
you
makes
can
sense.
do.
Sure. Yeah.
But now
that's why. So here's a
now I think
one.
we almost are worshiping gay people because it's like, well, now it's the opposite. It's like if you're not making kids, we kind of are like, thank God.
Most people will tell you we're overpopulated and it's a wonderful thing not to have children. I'm one of the only people I know that don't believe that at all and still don't want to.
That we're underpopulated and it's a good thing.
I don't
to have
know
children?
if we're underpopulated. I don't care about that. 8 billion. I mean, India's in a good place. It's a horrible place.
India's in a terrible place.
Exactly.
Right.
And they have the most people by far. Like there's a comedian.
But I think because that, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. His joke is just like, he's like, it's weird the Western people want to say Asian people have squinty eyes. He's like, they're more like half of people are either Chinese or Indian. So we're the weirdos with the big googly eyes. Like,
That's a good one.
True, yeah. Even though Indian don't really have.
Yeah, they don't.
But anyway, so yeah, that's a good question. Like the Vivek Ramaswamy guy was like basically saying we need to be more like India. It's like, how's that going for India?
It's not going well for India.
No,
but I think his point was that we need to be more like Indian families that came here.
He's kind of right. But to what purpose? That's the whole.
Yeah, because I think what he's basically saying is people here should be more like modern slaves in a industrious world.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? Like you should be committed to your craft of like doctor, lawyer, and he's kind of idolizing that whole, the Asian family trope where it's like you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer. He's putting that on a pedestal and saying that's how we should all be. You should be working hard from the day that you're born. Doesn't matter if you're filthy rich.
That's what he did, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't agree with that.
I don't either.
I think that people should be able to do whatever the fuck they want to do. And I think there is a lot of value that comes out of that. Yeah, if we're a big nation full of doctors, what happens? We're inflating the nation
well, why
with
aren't
doctors.
China or India better if that's the way to be?
Exactly. I think being creative and doing whatever you want leads to some of the more interesting things that America does. But
I am very patriotic. I just it feels like we're at the end, and it doesn't feel like.
I don't think we're at the end. I don't like that. I don't think that's true.
It's a monetary thing, which is how they all collapse.
You think so because we're slowly slipping off as the standard.
Not even slowly. It's been exponentially growing. Right. I used to show people the chart of.
The problem I have with it. Sorry to interrupt you again.
You're fine.
The peak to me felt like 1950. That was the
Probably
fucking peak.
And a lot of people thought that was capitalism. Someone explained to me that they're like, okay, well, World War II was us taking over the world in self-defense, which is a hilarious way to put it. And it's accurate.
I think it's pretty accurate, yeah.
Yeah, and we've occupied Germany ever since, and occupy South Korea, occupy UK.
I had a controversial point with a buddy of mine who was talking about World War II, and I was saying I think the only reason why we came out on top is because we realized that Russia was starting to win, and we were like, we better get boots on the ground and fucking get in there and take real estate before the Russians just take the whole fucking thing.
Maybe.
And a lot of my friends were like, that's fucked up. Like, and it's like, I think that we figured the Russians are going to push them all the way back and they're going to keep going all the way to fucking France unless we get down there and we hold them off. And I don't think that's that crazy of an idea, but some people think that is.
I don't know enough about any topic to. That's why I really like Douglas Murray, but he was on. Everyone thinks he embarrassed himself against Dave
He had some
Smith.
good points. I think he had some good points.
He's a brilliant guy.
Yeah.
But I agree with you have to be an expert to talk about it. I don't know shit about World War II other than, I've heard, I read Pat Buchanan's thing on the unnecessary war or whatever, and I was like, oh, that makes sense, but I don't know shit other than we came out on top. We might not have needed to drop nuclear bombs, but we did it just to be like, does everyone know we're on top? We're on top.
Big dicked it.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, maybe it was the free market system, but maybe it was we lived in a new country full of national resources with allies on both borders and oceans on either side.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, shit. Well, there goes my belief in free. So anyway, they've been printing.
But here's the thing, though.
Yeah.
If the peak is 1950, if we agree with that, the peak of the Roman Empire.
I don't know if it was the peak. That's an interesting point.
And this is actually also part of the point. The thing is, I don't think we know exactly where we are right now, if we're still peaking or what's going on. But technically, you could make another argument that the 1990s was the peak because then the USSR fell.
Well, it depends on how you're measuring it. So if you look at a picture of, and everyone thinks that it's hard to make these points because people automatically be like, oh, it's good because they're all white people. It's like, no.
No, I don't agree with that.
If you look at the beach in the 70s, it looked like Japan. There was one fat person and you went, what happened?
Yeah.
And again, now this is hateful or whatever, but.
No, it's fine.
If you look at when you go the peak of what? I don't know. So
I think the peak of the American Empire is still yet to be established. I don't think
I hope so.
We don't really know. I think there's conjecture that we're coming down, but I think that's not as true as the fact that China is coming up. And for the first time in a long time, we're like, oh, there's a person that's like right up on our ass that's doing pretty well. And we're all panicking, like we're all going to die, like the empire is crumbling.
Well, they want to kill us, and they have every reason to.
Well, yeah, and that's fine. But the thing is, the Roman Empire was around for like,
no one knows.
well, I mean, it started in
It
what?
slowly just started falling apart. There's no like end date.
Right. But you could mark the end date as either when Byzantium fell or the end date of when Rome got sacked for the first time. But the point is,
The first time isn't when it happened because we're already past that.
well, the point is that we're 700 years of that empire. And
There was, because that's what this author I like. He's like, are we at the fall of the Roman Empire or the Roman Republic? Because if it's the Republic, we still have a long ways to go.
Exactly.
And
This is the point.
Just
Yes.
yeah, and just because there's cycles in history doesn't mean. I just wouldn't know. Like, let's say if the point of what we're talking about is having children, I used to think college was the craziest thing you could possibly do. It's a life of like debt and servitude and whatnot, and that most of the stuff you don't really need to know. Because my marketing interns were just terrible at marketing. But then somebody explained it to me as like, oh, you're just applying for a rank in society. And I was like, shit, because for example, like a big part of like dating is people want to date people who are as educated or more,
Right.
Especially women. So,
Right.
but
I don't think men
I never
care.
looked at that. Well, I've spent my whole life scrapping to try and build these little companies and stuff and make decent money on my own, but nobody cares about that. It would be a lot better if I just had a master's and worked somewhere.
Right.
But I was brought up in a very low class, like, my family used to just work at the Ford factory. They'd drop out of high school and work at the Ford factory till all those jobs went away.
I see the appeal of a college degree. Like, I think it makes sense why people do it.
Oh, it makes tons of sense. But when does it stop being worth? So that's what I came around on, is I used to think it would be crazy to even have them go at all, especially because how much is it going to cost? You used to be able to pay for it working summers.
Oh yeah, that was those.
Well, it's
Back in
getting
the
worse
day.
every year. Yeah.
But I think colleges are under a lot of scrutiny right now because of they're clearly shafting people.
Yeah,
And-
well, they spend it all on administrative and their luxury resorts for kids who can take out unlimited debt, which,
Yeah, it ends up being, and that's like Gary Vee. You ever see what Gary Vee said about college?
I only saw him through watching Tim Dillon make fun of him.
He does this good thing where he's like, the thing about college is if your parents are going to pay for college,
Right.
then take the 4-year vacation, have a great time. You'll probably learn some things. You'll have a good time. But if they're not, there's fucking no point in going.
That's why I didn't go.
And yeah, and I think there is some wisdom there. Like, I went to college, my parents paid for it, and I think I learned things. I went for political science. I don't do
You
anything.
didn't have to tell me they paid for it. You said you already said you went for poli-sci.
Yeah. when I left, I was like, I'm not going to get into politics. I fucking hate it. Like,
But
really
is that what that
don't
major's
like it.
even for?
For what, politics?
It's almost for people who haven't decided what they want to go for.
It's a stepping stone, I would say, for lawyer or people who don't
Lawyer
know what
for
they're
sure.
doing. Yeah.
Lawyer for sure.
And I thought about being a lawyer, but I'm not a great reader. I don't like reading particularly, and I don't want to be face down reading contracts all day. That sounds
Exactly.
shitty.
And I hope AI wipes that out first.
That's probably what's
I
going to
try
happen.
not to be a jealous, bitter person, but they're such arrogant pricks.
And that's the other
And
thing.
400 an hour is so much money. Like,
Yeah, and that's the other thing about what the Ramaswamy, like what we were talking about, and these, hyper industrious doctors and lawyers, and they've trained their whole life. I do feel like at the end of the day, AI is coming for all of those jobs too. Like doctor, lawyer, that shit's gonna get knocked the fuck out.
well, so that's the big, if you want to get into the big conspiracy theory, it's that they're doing stuff to limit population, which I don't think they are. Again, I think we have it backwards. I think it's a thing that just happens.
Who's
I think
doing what to limit population?
they think, because the EU does say this, that like they have a goal of basic, like the Davos people everyone's worried about. They think it would be like the ideal humanity for them is 500,000 people live on Earth and AI does everything.
Yeah, I could see it.
which comes from, and I love this theory, but it comes from, they go to places that used to be nice to vacation, and now that, like, you know, there's middle classes in a lot of countries that can afford to go to those places, that you'll go somewhere famous and, like, it's supposed to be super bougie, and it'll just be full of, like, Walmart people.
Yeah.
And they're basically disgusted by that, yeah.
That's one thing I hate about travel, too, is I feel like it's so whitewashed now. Well, people are like, oh, it's so cool to, like, go to Italy, and then you go to Venice, and it's just all tourists, and it's like, well, did you actually learn anything about that culture? Are you actually more well-rounded?
Places for a few months is how I like to...
That's a good way to do it, because otherwise it's just like a
working.
Disneyland. Yeah.
Well, vacations are largely for families with young children.
Yeah.
Or if you're... Which is why I would like to have a partner, is somebody to take nice places. So I would enjoy them, because I don't enjoy them by myself. Not that much, at least. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not really sure what I'm working for. If you don't have kids, it's kind of weird, because I don't believe most charities do anything other than pay themselves and...
I agree.
Market. Like
at Taco Bell or whatever, when they're like, you want to donate $1, I'm like, that came out a couple of years back.
They're selling you feeling good about yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a whole industry. And
oh, yeah. Like the lady the CEO of the Red Cross makes like $500K a year, has a personal jet.
But I mean, I would
and
understand
the Red Cross helps
why.
People.
But I'm sure the Red Cross is a good organization. And I bet she probably deserves that money, to be honest.
No, I'm sure she's very well. But what most of the organizations do is... Like, so my example was I used to donate $1 to political parties, because I don't really like any of them, because they would spend hundreds of dollars sending me pleas for more money. It was just a tweet that I had. My Twitter used to be popular. Yeah. And then I made a bot that I shouldn't have made. And
to just like make tweets?
No, to replace this thing called Crowdfire. It was like a growth hacking app. I used to run Twitters for brands, and I just figured out, like, I hacked the shit out of Twitter. I had 17,000 followers or something, and I didn't even tweet that much. They were all real people. It's just... So what you used to do is you would find comedians that tweeted similar things to you, and you would follow all of their followers, and then Crowdfire would tell you which ones followed you back and which ones didn't, and you would unfollow the ones who didn't follow you back and just, like, churn them. And then people look at it was smart back in the day. And when people look at your,
because people generally follow someone that follows them.
Almost always. And they look at your profile too.
Monkey do thing.
Well, it encourages them to look at your profile, and usually they check out your tweets and they'll hit like or retweet on the ones they like.
That's smart.
Yeah. So it boosts engagement and it boosts, followers. And then you unfollow the ones that don't follow you back. And that's where you get, like, some of the people that became big influencers. I remember seeing Tim Runs His Mouth. I still don't know who it is. I'm sure he's terrible, but he was one of... If you see the people that they have huge accounts, but they're following like 300,000 people, they just did what I'm describing to get famous, but it's stuck, essentially.
Yeah, that's a smart move. I didn't know that was...
It was back in the day.
Is that not possible? Is that not...
Well, I built a macro to replace it, and they flagged me as a robot, but I also was making fun of COVID. Because COVID was when I lost all... That's what, if I had kids and they were putting masks on them and saying they needed vaccinated and stuff, this is when I agreed with the wild conservatives. Most of them were pussies about it, but I was like, the disease is affecting old people and fat people. Like, right. I'm not worried about it at all. And if my child had a learning disability because he didn't grow up seeing people's faces because of the ridiculous masks, like, I'm shocked no one got shot over that. Shocked. And it actually made me... I used to believe in the whole, like, America's the Wild West, you know? It's like, no, the fuck it isn't.
Right. We're still as controlling as anything else.
We're, at best, toy poodles. At best.
What? Toy poodles?
Compared to wolves, yeah.
Oh, I see. I would agree with that. I would agree with that. And who are the Wolves today? I think the Wolves today...
We had like one gym stayed open, and everyone thinks he's a hero, and he is.
Yeah.
But anyway, so, yeah, that was when and I don't even think they're your children anymore. So, like, in Colorado, they're trying to pass this thing that if you basically get in the way of your child like if you dead name your child, they can take it away from you. And I'm like, well, then it isn't your child, first of all, and second of all,
That's so crazy. How do you even enforce something like this?
with guns and police.
Yeah,
the
but
same
like
way
how?
they enforce everything
But
else.
where would they hear this? And
It
then-
happens all the time.
So if I have a child
Yes.
and he's 8
Yep.
and he's like, I want you to call me Sheila now, and he's a
Well,
boy,
usually they don't tell you. You get like you just find out. But yeah.
and then I call him Mark again,
Yep.
and then
There's plenty of people going through this right now.
He runs to his teacher and says, my parents' dead name
Or
me.
mom. So one of the people that were in my family that was accused of molestation, I was brought up to believe his ex-wife said that so that he wouldn't get any custody, which is a popular thing to do. I'm not sure if that was true because as I got older, I was like, no,
So the wife said that the husband was molesting, so that
he
she could
might
get
have
custody.
actually done it.
Oh,
But that's a thing that happens. And then another thing that happens is, let's say a lady was married to a conservative guy, and now she hates him because he didn't stick around or cheated or whatever it was. So she just, like, they use the kids for revenge, kind of. People don't, like, I don't think almost anyone has children for the good of the children. I think they do it for themselves. 1, so somebody has to listen to them. 2, because they're bored. 3, because they think they have to. And 4, because death is scary and they think it's a degree of immortality to leave
Or
children
on
alive.
accident.
That's on accident's like 75% of it.
yeah.
And they admit 45%, which I think it's way north of
So,
that.
and this is where I'm gonna say some crazy shit.
Go ahead. I would love to hear it. I love
This
crazy
is where
shit.
I'm kind of like, I'm almost sort of kind of back with the abortion argument a little bit because at the end of the day, you said 75% is on accident.
Well, it also...
And what's crazy is that if you cut out that 75% on accident with abortion, you're leaving all the ego reasons for the reason why people have kids, which is kind of an argument of why you should have the fucking kid. You know what I mean?
Well, the pro-natalist people found that abortion actually helps birth rates go up because if you don't have it, people actually are much more conscious of the risks of pregnancy, so they avoid it like we have right now, which is, like Gen Z. I guess now it's like 40% of them are virgins late in their 20s.
Right.
Which is partially probably just a backlash to hookup culture was just a nightmare that our generation was kind of obsessed with.
But is
You were
it a
at the
bad
tail
thing?
end
Is
of
it a bad thing that they're not having sex?
I don't know.
Is that actually bad? I feel like a lot of people frame it in this sense of like, dude, they're not banging. What the fuck are these kids doing?
That's what I'm saying. I don't
But
know
at the
if it's
same
bad.
time, it's like, is it actually a bad thing? That sounds like it's not a bad thing.
I haven't said all I'm saying. I'm just describing things that I noticed, and what I'm noticing now is people aren't having kids anymore,
Right.
which will result in societies collapsing. I don't care about that at all. I just basically don't want to have I don't want to have my free time, and I make good money, and it's still like the thought of like saving for somebody's college or something, or that's one of the things that
That sucks.
I can't imagine it. And then I don't blame. So I used to pay $300 a month for a room until I was 25, and then I had my own apartment because my roommate just disappeared one day. We were splitting a $675 2-bedroom, so I just paid for the whole place. And I actually tried to Airbnb the other room. That's when I got into that. But now like a studio apartment here is 800s in the hood with a 12-month lease for a studio. And people still consider 6 figures to be good money, but the purchasing power compared to even the 90s is just embarrassing. So, I'm not worried about society collapsing. I have no idea. And I've never been good with kids. So when I taught snowboarding, they tried to have me teach kids. And it was like I was surrounded by aliens.
I'm not worried about society collapsing. I'm just not good with kids.
Well, no, I'm saying it's not just that I don't want to have them because I'm like,
Society's crumbling around us.
I don't see it. So the cities, and it took somebody explaining this to me.
Sorry, here's another argument, though, right here. I would almost say that a lot of people that have kids, they would make the argument, listening to us talking about this right now, and they would say the problem you have is that you
Too
have
much free time.
You have too much time to think about all the things that could happen.
Right.
You should just have a kid. That way you don't have to think about anything. You just know what the right thing to do is.
Intelligence is negatively correlated with birth rate.
Yes. And it's like we have too much time to sit around here and be like, oh, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. Because all my friends who have kids, they've had them on accident.
Mine too. When I found out,
and they seem
I was in
like
my
they
late
don't
20s when I found out my friends don't pull out. Some of them just don't.
Yeah.
Even with strangers, or don't use condoms or whatever.
And they don't have time to bullshit at all. They're just like, dude, I gotta go. Like, I got this going on.
One of them's smart. He was just like, oh, they know better. If a lady hooks up with me, she'll have the abortion. He's funny. He's a comic in town, but
he had a kid.
No, shockingly. But you'd think if that's your, yeah, I have friends that have just been like, nah, I don't worry about it. I'm like, what do you mean you don't worry about it? How don't you have? It feels
Are they
really
kidding?
easy
They're
to
probably
have
not
kids.
having that much sex to the point where
Some of them were. One of them thinks he has a kid that the lady just,
never said anything.
well, because, yeah, she had a stable boyfriend. That's what I was telling you about when I found out that birds do that at roughly the same rate. Like, I think consciousness is an overgrown muscle for telling other humans what you're doing. It used to just be grunts like over there and, food or whatever, or like, this is mine.
And it just got blown out of proportion.
It kept because people started realizing that you can use it to manipulate people. So like, I like listening to Kurt Metzger. He talks about the ancient war between priests and kings, which Ayn Rand even had she called it the witch doctor in the Attila. But it's always been the people that can use force, and then there's people that convince you that there's like higher purposes to things, which they're almost always just arbitrary and, about controlling other people. And they've proven, so like Jonathan Haidt's work, what book is it? Is it The Righteous Mind? I can't remember. But the point is, people make a decision first and then rationalize backwards. So consciousness just fills in what you'd be doing anyway. So people just do shit, and then they get, and
then they're like, I did that because of that. But
Yeah.
they didn't actually do it
Nope.
because of that. It was all instinct.
Yep.
Well, that makes us, okay. Well, that kind of is sad.
So I don't have kids because I wasn't going to anyway. And I've just been...
So you just basically said everything you said was bullshit. At this
No,
point,
I'm saying...
you're saying that you didn't have kids because you wouldn't have.
It feels like I'm choosing all the things.
But you're not. You're rationalizing right now.
I guess so, yeah. That's what his work said.
But then that kind of what's crazy about that is that kind of idealizes the guy that just splurges in everybody because at least he's perpetuating his genes.
I thought about changing to that.
Yeah. But then at the same time, do you actually care enough to perpetuate your genes?
Not at all.
But somehow evolution does. Somehow that is
No,
important.
they think it does, but... So that's Darwin's big thing, but...
Because me, like my consciousness, I don't care about perpetuating my genes at all. And I may never have a kid. But me knowing that is bad for evolution. So why do I have that thought? Or am I rationalizing? Does that make sense?
Well, the thing I just described is one of my most favorite beliefs is that most people aren't interested in or capable of independent thought. Literally robots. Like they repeat shit that they heard. Now, I also think, based on what I just described, which is consciousness is like an overblown mechanism for manipulating people, explaining to them what you're doing, and it basically just kept growing and growing.
Yeah.
Until it was, now we have, it's weird that people kill themselves.
Right.
And most of the time, if they survive, they tell you it's almost like it's like a mental illness gets so, it doesn't mean anything anymore. But I mean, it's like actually a illness in your brain, because they say when they jump off the Golden Gate Bridge, because a bunch of them live, as soon as they jump, they go, oh shit, all of my problems were easily solvable.
Well, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then, yeah, if you ever see...
They ask him after, like...
Oh, yeah, there's a documentary. Yeah, it's excellent.
Wow. Well, that's kind of like the whole thing where people try to kill themselves and they can't, and then later on they're like, they never try again.
No,
because...
the lady that shot herself in the face, or the ones with the plastic surgery and all the... They don't do it a second time, which is enough to keep me from doing it ever, just because then you know better. But yeah, but what is the purpose? It's really easy if it's surviving. That's real easy. So there's been times where I've thought it would be better for life to be that, but I just said I'm a house cat, which is an embarrassing way to describe yourself. But, you know, if they gave me a gun and a boat and went go nuts, I wouldn't do anything. Like, I wouldn't be, I wouldn't be like, I wouldn't like conquer an island. I like to joke about it. When I was coming to Texas, I said, I'm on my way to restore sovereignty to the great nation of Texas, which is a fun joke because people here are kind of on board.
Right.
They're like, we should be a country. Fuck them.
Yeah.
Although I will admit this was before Trump won, and I didn't realize how crazy the Texas government's been going lately. Did you know, I think strip clubs, they have to be 21. Just weird, overly Christian-y things. The strippers.
Oh, really?
Like, it's a felony for them to take off their clothes in public if they're under 21 now, just for... there's, like, a bunch of really strange laws here.
There is some strange Christian one. Like, the one I really don't like is you got to get liquor at the liquor store.
That's a strange one. And I don't like strip clubs, so I'm not
like,
complaining. I'm just saying...
Yeah. Liquor at the liquor store bothers me the most because it's like you're just going to make it harder for me. But I would say this, objectively, it probably makes me drink less because I'm like, do I want to go to another store after this store? So I would say that objectively, that law has made me buy less alcohol, which I guess is the goal. But
that's not why they don't sell it on Sundays.
Well, that's the Sunday one is definitely separate too. But ultimately, I think the goal is don't drink too much is the goal. There is a religious element, but there's also like hey guys, chill out. There's also that element.
Do you know it used to be the original one was? Do you know it was the feminist movement behind Prohibition?
Oh, the MAD. Yeah.
No, not MAD. Prohibition. So like. Basically, the idea, it was the abolitionists the suffragettes. Basically, the idea was...
it's because they were basically saying, like, men are beating the shit out of us because of alcohol.
Not just that, but yeah, that was one of the things. The other thing was they're spending all the family money on alcohol when they should be good Christian, yeah.
I see it. I get a little bit of alcohol control.
Alcohol's a poison. I mean, the kids not drinking it as much is wonderful. Do you have any more waters or anything?
Yeah. Do you want a water?
That'd be excellent. Thank you.
I might go take a pee, too. I'll be right
back. Oh, take your time. How long have we been talking? I talk forever.
We're at 2 hours.
Oh, goddamn.
We can still go, though. I'm still down.
Sure.
Take a quick
Yeah,
break.
I gotta see what This is a nice studio and all that. I know this is interesting for us. I'm curious what... Oh, are you going to... There's a mic at... Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about any mics on Fridays. It's just today. It's Chuli's mic at... Dead Coffee or something. I'll tell you in a minute. I became obsessed with them when I did a couple months of just sober, and that might have been, I drank a ton forever. That was a big part of why I didn't want to have kids. I was like, I gotta cure this first.
Yeah, I like drinking. I don't think I drink in like abundance or anything, but
Most people don't have the problem. I needed it to sleep. I believed he would be notified of that.
I feel like I am negatively affected by alcohol when I sleep.
No, it does. So once I got out of that habit, I started sleeping a lot more, and then now it disrupts my sleep.
Yeah.
But I drank so much forever, which is funny because a lot of my like the reason I don't eat sugar and the reason I exercise a lot was I was like, well, I got to be healthy. Like I started jogging because I smoked cigarettes and wanted to be in better shape than the people who would be like, nagging me about smoking cigarettes. And I haven't smoked cigarettes in years and years. But.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, cigarettes are definitely a bad one. I smoke occasionally whenever I do drink,
Oh, really? And you can.
and then I'm like, oh, I really want one. But I have noticed that if I smoke a cigarette sober, I get nauseous.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm
So
gonna use the restroom too. Then
yeah. I'll get pretty nauseous if I smoke sober.
weird. So I use these, especially when I quit drinking. But they're the
The Zins or the
pretty
Oni.
much, yeah. Changing the DNS. Transfer when the site isn't secure.
What do you do again?
Websites and stuff. Wait for.
Like website design?
Let me know if I should hold off. I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, I guess sometimes. My old business partner used to do that. I used to do development, but I pay people in India to do that mostly now.
Down here and to the left.
Thank you.
No, right here, right here. Go use this one. Sorry, my bathroom's a mess and I'm insecure about it. No, not those. Down here.
What?
Down the hall.
Oh, that one. Okay. Yeah. So I do SEO, I guess.
SEO.
Yeah, that's the most. Oh, that's your garage. You have a Tesla. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I thought that was your garage. There it is.
Boop. Boop 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 boop. Boop 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 boop. Boop 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 boop. Boop 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 boop. 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 Wrong with the world, mama. People la la, they ain't got no mama. Mina, come here. Come here. Come here. Come on. Come on. Come on, baby. Yeah. Come on, baby. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Hey, come here. Come on. Come here. Come here. There you go. That's a good girl.
Are you worried people are going to vandalize it?
Vandalize what?
Your Tesla, that's such a strange.
Oh, I was worried for a bit, but I think in Austin there's enough of them.
Yeah, this is the Tesla city, too.
What are you looking for? Oh, a trash can?
I'm gonna throw my
Oh, you're good. You're good. I was a little nervous at first, but I think the height of it's gone away now.
Well, he's out of office soon. It amazes me everyone hates him so much. They'll don't find fraud and abuse, and then they're destroying Teslas. It's like that was the most progressive thing you could do for 10 years was buy a Tesla.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden the script flipped. That's what's so interesting about him as a person is that it's like I remember like 2016 Elon Musk was like people worshipped this guy.
I remember my friend did.
People were like, this is the greatest man that ever lived. There were documentaries about him putting us on Mars. And now I think we were all just came to this point where we're like, fuck this guy, you know? But I think it's kind of like die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain type situation. And he's also so good at marketing that I think people just got tired of seeing him everywhere and for everything. And
not just marketing. The Starlink is probably the most useful thing anyone's ever done.
Yeah.
If you care about... He almost did their values so well that it exposed them as frauds, which his crime is not believing in the national myth or national religion or whatever you want to call it, the unifying theory. And then, he kind of just wants to be left alone. But so I was wondering for a while if I was like, maybe that's the solution. Maybe you just get people pregnant and make sure you can pay for the kids. But no, that's like a weird.
But see, that would kind of fit. Like, if everything you said here today, I feel like that kind of fits into that philosophy because it sounds like what you're thinking is if there was a kid, I would want it to be private education. I would want to do all these very good things, but it sounds very expensive. So it's like, it almost feels like, and I agree, you have to be insanely stupid wealthy before you can start being like, all right, I'm going to start.
Well, his model doesn't involve raising the kids. He doesn't, he hangs out with little X or whatever, but he doesn't. You just got another lady pregnant, and it sounds like he offered her $100K a month plus $25 million or something just to shut up and be a baby mama. And he's not raising them. That's why one of them was, he's like, they took my child because the child's trans. I don't remember in which direction or how. But yeah, he doesn't raise his kids at all.
The other thing that shocks me is the number of trans kids. That shocks me.
Well, I think it's happened before. And I used to use Chinese foot binding as an example of how crazy things like that can go on forever.
Please make a correlation with Chinese foot binding and trans. I would love to hear this.
Surgically mutilating. So, and I like to tease conservatives about this because they'll be like, oh, I can't believe they're cutting their genitals off. I'm like, within 5 minutes of me being born, a doctor was paid to cut part of my dick off.
Right.
So let's quit acting
like that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, it is crazy, but humans have been doing dumb shit like that forever.
Right.
So yeah, I think that could go on forever. Or it probably won't, because it's just not, they sell them this whole they think everything's gonna work, and then they find out they're like, wait, this is just like plastic surgery and pretend. That's pretty disappointing.
That's exactly what it is, though.
Yeah, except for, female to male.
And I do feel like
they take testosterone long enough. They like, if you ever see Buck Angel, that's you would not be able to tell. And if you've seen a picture of him naked, it's
I have a
horrifying.
I have a friend who is definitely he's got some kind of mental. He says a learning disability, but you look at him and you're like, this guy clearly he's got some kind of mental problem. But he says he's trans. He's like 35. And
they, them?
It doesn't matter, but he says he's trans.
That's like the non-committal version.
Right. The thing is I know this guy so fucking well. Like, I play video games with him all the time. I've known him his whole life. And when I hear him talk about his beliefs, to me, it doesn't sound like you're actually thinking that way. To me, it sounds like you're so insecure in your own skin that you're pretending you're someone else to feel some sort of power because you are so insecure with how you feel and look. Does that make sense?
Well, and it's a magic answer for everything.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody becomes supportive and cheers for you.
Exactly.
And when
getting
that stops
support.
happening,
Yeah.
it'll be the most evil thing people ever did to other people.
Why do you think it would stop?
I mean, they're already stopping some of the reassignment surgeries and stuff. A lot of states are.
Right.
And, you know, if everyone goes from universal playing pretend or you lose your job, like I used to joke on stage, I would say, I came out as trans when this business made me mad and I wanted everyone to be fired or something. I don't remember, but I used to say you could just write a review that they were being transphobic and tell the local news station and it won't be a business anymore. That's how it was.
Right.
So yeah, if everyone stops that level of affirmation and affection and whatnot, yeah, then they'll go like the South Park. They nailed it a long time ago. He paid to be a dolphin, and it's like, well, I can't breathe underwater or swim, or, you know, unless they figure out the mechanics of all that. But
Yeah. But then again, you're still playing pretend. You're not a dolphin.
well, it depends if you blow up what all the words mean, which is what people want to do. Like, were you there for Latinx? It's my favorite thing in the world.
Oh, Latinx?
Yeah.
Yeah. That one was crazy.
I tried to explain it to this Mexican restaurant in Denver, and they didn't know what I was talking about. And I pointed at the TV, which was like whatever broadcasting station is all in Spanish. And
Oh, Telemundo.
it might have been, but they had X's at the ends of some of the words. And I was trying to explain to them what it meant. They didn't speak English that well, and they just were not getting it. I was like, the white people decided that you have to do this or you're racist.
Gendering your language.
Their entire language is based on gender. There isn't.
In Portuguese, it's the same way. They started doing that also, where there has been some of that movement in that world.
At the universities.
Well,
I guarantee that's where it came from.
There's some movement in that as well. I don't know if it's university. I don't know where it came from, but
I would bet everything I have without looking or doing any research.
And there's a little bit of like that X, or I don't think it's A or E. Like they don't. It's not
Airs
gender
or whatever. Yeah.
It's like with an S. Like when you conjugate with an S, it means gender neutral.
Germany has it for strangers. It's Z, which it's a non-gendered article.
Right.
And I feel bad for people that are kind of androgynous because you can tell people are like just immediately assume it's on purpose.
I kind of like talking to people who are in the middle and they're like, this whole thing is pissing me off. And they know that they look like not quite male, not quite female. But they're still annoyed that this whole thing is kind of a cultural phenomenon. And they're just like, God damn it, I'm stuck in the middle of this shit. That is a tough place to be. But
it's always been something. I mean, we weren't alive for there was the babysitters or demonic or whatever. Did you hear about that one? It was the 80s. They thought that there was people that watch your children were doing like rich satanic rituals, and it just turned out it was like kids with active imaginations were just making shit up.
Yeah.
There's always been panics about different things. I mean, like I think social services comes if you let your children play by themselves too far from your house, which means they're not your children.
Yeah. But we used to have like a little thing. We used to have a line. My parents drew like a line. They were like, "This is as far as from the house as you can ever go. You cannot cross this line."
Which isn't how kids are meant to be.
Yeah. But
they said they used to have you go get cigarettes for your parents, and like kids would just wander New York City.
Yeah, but was
by
that
themselves.
better? Was that better? I don't know if it was.
When
I don't think it was.
There was less people, probably.
Maybe when there was less people.
Again, I'm not making a judgment. I'm just saying I'm not raising a kid that they're going to put a mask on that doesn't know how to get places without a GPS, or, you know, just. I have no idea what I would raise them to do. I would have to lie to them about everything.
Which parents do. I mean,
true.
At least until they realize, and then they resent you. But
yeah, so I don't have a better answer. I'm not saying when the genders were more specific, it was better. I'm just saying that's what built society, and as it collapses, it'll go the other way. There isn't like I don't believe in there's like here's what we need to do to change everything. I think it's already, the course is kind of set. You know, like, for example, the reason America was so great for a little while, I think, was it was people from London, which was already going through a lot of the same problems we have now, and they were reintroduced to the real world, which was taking a boat to somewhere where it's people who you can't communicate with, that aren't sure, they don't want to kill you. And, you know, you have to, like, conquer the land or whatever. And then I think they got bored of doing that, and they just started going to war with people.
Right.
And yeah, they've
Have you heard the
run out
story
of
Have you heard the story of Belgium and the Congo?
I bet I'd like it.
Oh, it's great. So like the whole rape of Africa situation, where like English and the French were kind of carving up
I have no
Africa.
idea about any of that.
So in the late 1800s, England and the French were basically starting to just take Africa, and they were going to war with different
That makes
cultures
sense.
and just colonizing everything.
Right.
And
because Haiti's a French colony, right?
yes, but Haiti's in the coast, and
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, they were colonizing the whole thing, and there was one part of Africa which was the hardest part to get to, which was the Congo, because there was no routes. It's covered in jungle. You can't get into Congo. And Belgium, which was like a rising power in Europe and a new country, they were like, we want to get in on this colonizing game, because the Germans, the French, the English are all doing it. So,
And it seems to be built into humans to some degree.
yeah, so they were like, we're gonna go do this. And there's a documentary about, there's Heart of Darkness is like a famous book that was written about it. And basically they went in there through the river system. They found the culture that lived there, and they fucking just straight up put these people to work. A lot of them died. I think 7 million Congolese died. This was in 1800. Like, that's crazy numbers for 1800. And
That
they
was
just
probably the most ever.
And nobody knew what was going on, because there wasn't like a modern media, and it was such a secluded part of the world that nobody had any clue what was happening, until one guy from England was like, I'm going to go visit this new thing. And he went there and he was like, holy shit, what is going on over here? But they were making money hand over fist off rubber and shit, and they slaughtered these people. And even to this day, that's why the Congo is so fucked up. It's because there was a massive infrastructure there from Belgium. And then when they were like, all right, Belgium, you have to go, and they left, there was nothing. And all the people that were left there were the most uneducated people in the culture.
That's what I'm saying about if society shrinks too fast, is the people that ran all the systems, there aren't enough of them, and they start collapsing. And then we'd get back to, it would have to be very specific things. Like in small cities, it's just like,
oh, people say that about India too. Because
I don't know anything about India other than...
Well, they have you seen like the before and after photos of India, like India from 1950 versus India now, like when they were ruled by the British? Mm-mm. And it's like they have concrete slabs, they have like paved roads, houses look okay, and then they show the same street now, and it's just like dirt road, people on the street, like it's crazy. But I see your point, and there's also the argument of like that in Egypt, like what happened with the pyramids. People say that that's exactly what happened, what you're saying with the pyramids.
I think so. I don't think they drew on the blocks and then assembled it. I think they built the pyramids and then drew the artwork from the inside, which there aren't any windows or ways of getting light in there other than if they had some sort of, lights. And they think they found a battery from there, which I'd be surprised if they didn't have. And there's also technologies that probably we haven't rediscovered.
If they made a battery, what would they be powering?
Lights. That's what I'm saying. I think they had some form of, because the pyramids also they somehow got water to flow under it so that the air would pass under, and it would go on the water, which would remove the heat. Which, do you know how air conditioners work?
No, not really.
Pretty much the same. So the one outside compresses gas, which so when you spray the can,
yeah,
it gets cold. It's because when the gas expands, it sucks up all the heat. There's no such thing as cold. Cold's the absence of heat. Basically.
It's the absence of movement.
Or there you go, movement.
So it's compressed gas.
Yeah.
And then when you spray, the gas releases.
Mm-hmm. So in your furnace, there's a thing called a. Do you even have furnaces here? They have to.
No.
Really?
I don't think so, no.
Yeah, you have to. What about when it's... Because it was 30 a couple days I was here.
I have a heater, but I don't know if it's a furnace.
Is it gas?
Does
it have a metal thing in the front? Circle? Tube that goes up?
Don't think so. I don't think I have a furnace. I really don't think
Could
that's
just
a thing.
be a heat pump. So heat pumps are air conditioners that run backwards. But anyway, so there's a thing called an evaporator.
That sounds
It's in
right.
your... You have this either way because it's an air conditioner. But so when the gas goes through the evaporator, it expands and it sucks all the heat out of the... which then gets pumped to the compressor, which is outside. So the fan blows the heat off the compressor coil, which when it compresses it, it releases all the heat. And that's what the fan blows away as the heat. So I used to think when I was little, I was like, is it sucking the air from outside and adding cold to it? But no, none of the air leaves the house. It just well, other than through the holes and stuff. It just circulates the same air. All it does is it sucks up the heat and puts it outside. So it's the same principle of the water is basically absorbing the heat and moving it outside, and then new water comes in, and the air that runs over it's colder.
Okay.
So they had air conditioning to some degree.
Right.
Yeah, I assume they had some sort of lighting because how did they draw on the bricks and then assemble them together?
I feel like it would just be fires, just like a fire stick with
No,
fire.
they would die. They would carbon monoxide.
Oh, like when they're inside of the pyramid?
Yeah. It's just a guess. Like I said, I only know little bits of these things, so
I don't know
it'd be
much
nice
about
if one
the
day
pyramids.
people listened to it and told me, "Oh, you're stupid. This is what happened." But I think religious myths are based on
Some kind of truth.
more advanced civilizations that used to exist, and then basically something causes the population to collapse, and then they can't manage all of the complex systems, and then they revert to, like, everybody's racist in prison. Have you ever heard that?
Yeah.
So it's like that. So right now we're in the Tower of Babel period where we're trying to have a universal language, which is English, unfortunately. Like, have you heard, like, Mexican people talking and they'll say, or Brazilian maybe, do they say laptop in Brazil?
Yeah, they do.
Cell phone, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
they do that in Russia too. They say
exactly.
They say cell phone. The word for weightlifting in Russia is weightlifting.
That's what I'm saying.
It's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is my favorite thing about the Latinx. Latinx is, they're like, oh, we used to be colonial imperialists. It's like you're colonizing their language with our beliefs. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
So if you think that all ended, no. They're trying to make the universal language English, and it's kind of becoming that way. But anyway, if all this stuff collapses and we don't have the Beats earphones that can automatically translate and stuff, and everybody goes back to not being able to talk to each other, they probably just start having lots of small-scale wars again and fighting over territory, and, you know, we might even separate enough to evolve differences again. I have no idea, though. Or this is the only time we've ever had advanced civilization. That just sounds silly.
I think this is definitely the only time that we've ever gotten to the point of an internet and everybody on the planet is talking to each other. This has got to be the only time that's ever happened.
I think that's what the story of the Tower of Babel is about.
But I mean, some people make the argument that because there's pyramids everywhere in the world, that there was some sort of communication.
And they're it's the best structure.
That's the other thing is like, well, if I'm a primitive society and I'm making a building, pyramid is not a bad way to go.
It's how the military is organized. It's how companies are organized.
Yeah.
It's an interesting...
I just think that if I'm building something, it's probably going to look something like a pyramid if I have like shitty tools. I don't necessarily use that as an example of every society is talking to each other because there's pyramids in every society.
Well, they were probably just built to last as long as possible.
True.
Because we have them because basically Vegas likes the shape. That's the only ones we have.
Right. Well, we got that Bass Pro Shop in Tennessee.
I've never seen that.
It's the second largest pyramid in the planet. Let me see.
Tennessee was my Colorado before I went to Colorado. I thought it was so beautiful there.
Here, you want to see this? Look at this thing.
It's not 6. Holy shit. All right, maybe 10 or so more minutes, and I'm going to...
There it is.
Oh, I have heard of that. Huh.
10 minutes.
Oh, I'll talk forever. I'm enjoying this. We covered things I like talking about, which are
when is Chuli's
people
mic?
don't have thoughts.
I think
that's a good question.
The premise that I've gotten from this whole thing is that I think the main point I think that was really good was the rationalization, which is like everything that we say is rationalizing our actual baser instincts.
They said they've proved that.
And that kind of to me, but the thing that makes, which is crazy, because then it turns to like idiocracy. So it's like it's almost better to just be the guy that's an idiot and just splurges in every girl, because at least your genes are
the documentary that the time travel made.
Which one?
The documentary Idiocracy that time traveler created.
That one.
What sucks is the production value wasn't that great, but
I'm surprised they haven't remade it, considering the cult following that movie has.
They're not capable of making good movies anymore. They've already proved that.
Yeah. That one would be really good to remake. Also, I just think that the media...
Show's at 8, doors at 7:30, but nobody stayed for the mic, really, so I don't recognize any of these people. Anyway, he's having me... I'm doing his Kava Bar show tomorrow, and I remember you wanted to know how to get on the Roscoe's thing, and it's like... It's not a bad mic to go to. He seems to run shows.
Yeah,
sorry, what were we talking about? He's a good dude. I like him.
Yeah, he's nice. We were talking about...
Oh, the point.
The point of rationalization and the fact that we have too much time to think about all the shit that we are thinking about, when in reality it's like maybe it would be better that we just have a woman and have kids and are raising kids. That way we just don't fucking think all day, because that seems to be all that I do too. And sometimes I think, well, maybe I should just shut up and stop thinking and just have a kid.
Can you?
No.
That's my point.
But I think
probably weren't designed that way.
But there's some freedom in to just be like, have a kid. And and I have heard enough stories of people being like, I was just sort of wondering, I had a kid, it gave me purpose, it gave me drive, because now I'm thinking, I'm not just supporting myself, I have to go out there and make money for this fucking thing to do well.
I've thought about that before.
And that's a thought that's a real fucking thought, you know? Because that's real.
Yeah, but then you're making somebody else live so that you can feel like you have purpose. And then they got to make somebody else live so they can feel like they have purpose.
Which is a pyramid scheme.
If you ever listen to my favorite podcast of all time is Tim Dillon. I don't even really like his stand-up. I just like his... I like listening to him rant. And the way he talks about his parents is they're very neglectful, and his dad was always trying to make like a rock album and stuff. And that's how I see me. I feel like I would be... The people tell you it gives them purpose and stuff. Like I can't sit down and watch a sports game, and I really even have trouble with movies and television and stuff. Like I feel like if I had a kid, everything would be exactly the same, except I would be occupied a lot more and probably just resentful. I don't think it like changes anybody or fixes anything. Don't read Regretful Parents if you don't want to. It's always just people on the fence who are like, you know, I pray that I'll get into a car crash on the way to work every day and stuff like that. It sounds pretty miserable, and it seems like, you know, if you take out that altruistic facade or veneer, like maybe people just had children because that's how you used to retire and because they treated them as servants.
Yeah.
Seems to be the case.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh, I want to have a legacy, but what was your great-grandfather's name? I ask people this all the time.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That is a good point.
What did he do for a living? What did your great-grandma do?
Another thing that I think is interesting is, and have you seen how they do dog breeding? Mm-mm. So they did this thing where they got like 100 dogs, and the nicest dogs that they had of all of them, they would mate them with another dog.
They're called golden retrievers.
Yeah, and then of all of the dogs that they made out of that mating, they would pick the nicest dogs, and then they would have them mate with
I
a bunch
know.
of dogs. And they kept doing that until all of the dogs were really nice.
So I guess I do know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And it's like, how does that happen in the human race with like what's going on right now? It almost seems like the guys who are thinking too much are getting bred out. And again, it's idiocracy is what it is. But
Well, they probably always were like that. I think. And IQ isn't necessarily because why is, China and Japan have the highest IQ, as far as I understand it.
That's what I've seen, too.
Ghana's up there, but
I think I've heard the argument that IQ tests are designed for people with Western.
yeah, that's what colleges say now and they're correct to some degree, but yeah, it's definitely negatively correlated with birth rate. But people have a hard time picking what. Like, I thought I would be happy if I just wandered around doing what I want all the time, but that's not that fulfilling.
So what do you think is fulfilling?
I have no idea where I'd be doing it.
And that's where you're at with the
Yeah.
35 thing, where you're like, damn, what is the thing?
I mean, that's how I've been my whole life. Yeah. And that's probably the root of why I would say I didn't have any kids yet, because if I did, I would want to tell them what the point of it all was. It would be nice to be able to tell them something.
Why they're here.
Well, that's why religion works so well for so many people.
It gives them an answer.
And I used to think creating a religion would be a fun way to spend my time, but I'm not good at like pretending I believe in things.
Yeah, that's a tough one. All right. You want to call it?
Yeah, that's good. Let me know if you get any good clips. I'm sure you will.
Yeah, I'll probably listen to it here tonight.
That's a lot of work.